Well, I don't think I'm forgetting anything. So let's see if I'm right about that. Yeah, looks like things are working. Um. Hmm. Hmm. We go. I think that's posted everywhere now. Yep. Cool. We're up. No face cam. Yeah, I don't feel like being on face cam. Um. Anyway, unlike usually, I do actually have something to start the stream with because I don't enjoy seeing. Well, actually, this isn't really going to change that. But I've been thinking, like, instead of people sending me their timings so that I can write over them in Paint on stream, uh, and then like give them basically the same timings every time anyway, because like watching the past streams is apparently too difficult or something, or just watching the videos about the various memory overclocks I've done is also extremely difficult and complicated. I've made this spreadsheet. Um, yeah, so we have like, and it goes all the way from like 6,000 to 6,400. This is for Ryzen, and it is just for 16 gigabit ADI for now. So yeah, there's like timings for 8,000, 7,800, 7,600, 6,400, 6,200, and 6,000. It's basically a replacement for the Easy Hynix timings. I mean, specifically for ADI, this doesn't cover MDI, though the original Hynix Easy timings don't really cover MDI anyway. By that I mean the 24 gigabit MDI, 16 gigabit is covered. And yeah, so this is now available up on Patreon at the $5 membership tier, or you can just buy the document for $10. Um, and yeah, and I spent an awful lot, like, I mean, I spent more time writing out the timings than thinking about the pricing, but man, thinking about the pricing was a pain. Um, or I make a screenshot of this screen. Yes, you're very clever. Like, because these timings weren't available for free on the internet already. Like, is that the thing you make people pay $5 for? Yeah. Because it's free information. Like, this is literally an idiot tax. Um, like, people, like, I have people come on stream and give me their, like, XMP profile for $5 so that I can give them the timings that are in that document. So it's like, well, if you're gonna go and do that, then why don't you just buy the document and I don't have to spend, like, time writing in Paint. You can just copy the timings directly out of a PDF. Makes life so much more convenient for everyone. Because you're evidently not capable of finding the timings on the internet yourself anyway, so like... Like, the way I see it, it's basically like an extra XMP profile on top of your XMP. So I was like, well, XMP memory kits are anywhere from like, I don't know, 10 to like... Actually, if you're buying something like an 8000 Expo, those are like $200, right? So those are like really expensive compared to like JDEC Hynix. Um, and so, yeah. Also, that link you posted does not work. Probably because it's not set to be public. It's not idiot tax, it's time-saving DLC. Is that... okay, no, yeah, I guess. They're not stable on my 7950X? That's weird. It was the RAM overheating messing with TREFI, but actually not... it was not high enough VSOC. That's odd. Oh, two DDR5 6000 CL32 and this 2-stick of dual rank X8 8i chips. No, that's probably just worse. Nah, yeah, that's just worse than wait. No, that's not X8. That's X16. Or you mean it's dual rank 8 gigabit? Nep, you're not the one whose link was, like, broken. It was somebody else. It's... I think... yeah, it's Frunk AF who has a link that doesn't work for me. Oh, well. Yeah, this does work. Well, let's take a look. Extremely lazy timings on bad H16A kit. Intel at 7200. Hey, at least it's running 7200. Oh, wait, this is Z890. Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's bad. I don't know anything about Z890, though, unfortunately. Like, literally nothing at all. I don't have any Arrow-like, and I don't plan to change that anytime soon. Because, it's too expensive and too slow. If it was a lot cheaper, I might buy some Arrow-like, but it's not cheap, so sucks to be Intel. Anyway, 34, 44, 22, 44, 84. Why are you leaving the TRAS so high? That really shouldn't be necessary. 24, 574 on 8i, that's way higher than it needs to be. 467, that's just random. 88, also really, really high again. 88, that's cool. T-Fall 32. 32,000 refresh interval. Are the memory sticks running like super hot or something that you need that? And then 16, 8, 20, 20, 60, 50. 32 and 8? That doesn't look like 8i. That looks like Micron at that point. Right to right, same group. Unless something changed with the memory controller, that should be 16. So, yeah, this is not great. Let's cut down dual rank stick by Clev. It's... Wait, so it's like 8 gig X8, but in dual rank. It's a Garbo 6800 kit from 2022. I just did that is a 7200 rated kit. But 6800 should be viable for 7200 plus. But I don't know why it wouldn't go over 7200, because, like, I literally don't know anything about Arrow. Like, I'd imagine it's like a voltage or... Well, probably a voltage problem of some kind. Could you test 8800? No, because it doesn't work. Like, why would you... Like, what... Like... Do you live under a rock? Like, I just... It's the same memory controller as 7000 series with some minor bug fixes so that the ratios above 8000 aren't completely broken anymore. But that doesn't change the fact that the memory controller really doesn't go above 8400. And even 8400 generally doesn't work unless you get incredibly lucky. Anyway, next timing set. 30. Okay, so 6,000, 30, 35, 35, 28, 58, 4, 8, 16, 4, 16, 48, 450, 4, 1. Yeah, generic Hynix timings. Yay! That one was easy. Not really anything to say about that. Okay, there's another submission. And it's another Ryzen. And it's got 6400, 30, 38, 34, 30, 64, 4, 820, 414, 48, 422, single rank, 12, 16, 2. Yeah, looks good. Minimize. I don't know why you'd bother. Like lowering the volt. I mean, like, I guess lowering the SoC voltage might slightly reduce the CPU power draw, but like the rest of it is like, I actually don't know why you'd bother. It's not like any of these voltages are super high or anything, so yeah, I would just leave this alone in this configuration. Now, Micron chips are horrible? Where they are. For DDR5, they are. We've got 6200, 28, 36, 36, 30, 30, 60, 4, 8, 22, 13, 372, 6. Huh. Okay. Also, gear download disabled. 2166, 65,000 refresh interval. So this is really tight. And that's a surprisingly low amount of VDD for that CAS latency. I mean, I wouldn't go back from this. I just think this was kind of pointless. Like, these differences are so small that, like, I don't think it matters in either direction very much, but, for gaming, probably having gear down mode disabled is a bit better than having it turned on. AM5 DDR dual rank 2-to-1 max MCLK. I don't know. I've not had much success with dual rank. Like, for me, it was like 6800 max so far. And I don't have a lot of dual rank kits, so I've not tested it like extensively. I've seen some people manage like over 7200, but I'm not one of them. So, yeah. 9800X 3D 6600 1-to-1, it's possible. Yeah, if you get lucky. Like, just if you get really lucky, it'll do 6600. And if you're, so I don't know, if you want to buy like 10 of them, with considering the fact that CPU is sold out, like, good luck with that. I did that one. Okay, so next submission. That didn't work for some reason. Okay, now it did. We've got a 5600 on a B550 A-Pro, 15, 19, 19, 21, 33, 54, 4, 6, 16, 410, 468. So Hynix of some kind, 4, probably single rank. Actually, definitely single rank. This looks good. Like for Hynix, this is probably about as good as it's gonna get. The only thing, like if you want to try push it a bit further, maybe see if like you can get it working at 3733. It's about the only thing I would try with this. Yeah. And actually, if you're going to be trying 3733, like turning gear down mode back on, or you could try 2T command rate. Either of those is like an option for... Because the thing is, with 3733, the main benefit is that you run more FCLK, right? You'll be at 1866 instead of 1800. And so gear down mode is like I don't... Like at 3600... Well, I don't generally consider gear down mode a priority. So like I'd rather run more FCLK than gear down mode turned off. But yeah. Anyway, next submission. We've got a 7800X3D running 6200. Wait, this looks familiar. Oh, right, of course. Okay, no, it's not the same thing. The TRFC is slightly different. 28, 36, 36, 36, 30, 66, 4, 8, 20. This is 8i, and you, like you micro-optimize your TRFC, but then, like, you left TRP at, like, XMP for some reason. When, like, usually TRP can get pretty low on 8i. But yeah, 4, 8, 20, 4, 16, 4, 2, 16, 4. Yeah, this all looks good. And again, it's single rank, so we don't have to worry about the dual rank timings. 2066 FCLK. Yeah, this, like, very generic. Yeah, like, the only thing I'd probably try is, like, lower the TRP. Actually, I don't know, so I haven't checked this yet, because on 9000 series, you can now control TRCDWR. I don't know if they implemented that for 7000 series. But if you can, then you can, like, drop TRCDWR, like, way down. Anyway, next submission. Wait, this is the same one. How did that happen? Oh, it was twice. Cool. Single rank Micron 16 gigabit Rev B. We've got 30, 100, 15, 18, 16, 21, 51, 4, 4, 16, 2, 6, 16, 5, 4, 2, 2, 2, 8, 13. This is absolutely slammed. At 1.47. Yeah, this for this memory chip, this is about as good as it's gonna get. So yeah, nice timings. There's not really much more to say, right? Like FCL, yeah, FCL 1900 FCLK, UCLK, MCLK. It's not generic though, because this memory chip is unfortunately kind of rare. Wait, what part number is that? I don't recognize that. It's not a Kingston or a G-Skill or a Corsair. So yeah, I have no idea who made that. GDM disabled better. So disabling gear down mode gives you slightly less latency, but it might hurt max frequency. And it barely makes a difference. So personally, I find it like I don't really worry about it. I don't usually bother turning it off. There's like some scenario, like if I'm benching, sure, but for daily, it's just like, eh. Um, Especially because in a lot of scenarios, it makes getting it stable a massive pain. Anyway, next submission. Doesn't work. Cool. So we'll try another one. Yeah, for ADI, so for 16 gigabit Hynix ADI, you can usually run TRP like equal to TCL if you're at like lower voltages. At higher voltages, it usually needs to be a couple ticks above TCL, because it doesn't really scale as much. All right, no, not that. Anyway, what do we have here? Cool. So this is fully stress tested. Okay, 6200, 28, 36, 36, 32, 30, 62, 4, 8, 20, 4, 14, 411, 4, and single rank. Cool. Yeah, if you need 1.23, 1.25-ish to run 6200, you're not doing 6400. Like this is very simple. If you need if you need more than 1.2 volts at 6200 to be stable, you're not doing 6400. Like that's just how that works. Like if you can't do 6200 at like significantly less than 1.2, 6400 is not happening. Because the like last step to like the last voltage step to raise the UCLK is absolutely ridiculously huge compared to all the previous ones. So yeah, like my 9950X is capable of doing 6400 at like 1.2-ish, and it still can't do 6600. Right? Like at all. It's not even remotely stable, and it's just yeah. So this is not surprising at all. Like, and this is like, I don't get why like people get so surprised about this, because it really is just like doing 6400 on Ryzen is literally just like, can you do it with less than 1.3? Like if you can, like it either works at 1.3 SoC or it doesn't. And if you need more than 1.2 for 6200, then it won't work at 1.3. So yeah, I get surprised at like how many people just try all like how much effort people put into trying to make 6400 work when it's like all it is just good silicon or a lot of voltage. Technically, there's a way to bypass that 1.3 volt limit, but then you're running the risk of burning the CPU out. So you know, that's not really an option. Unless you want to be buying a CPU every few years. And possibly a new motherboard, because, like, the boards might actually, like, the CPU burning out might damage the motherboard, so not a good idea. Anyway, next submission. Ooh, this one actually looks original, or at least different. Yeah, 7700 B650E. Ooh, I was wondering if that little ITX board from ASRock is any good. The Phantom Gaming ITX. I mean, 7800 isn't super high, but that could also just be like CPU limited. So we've got 36, 48, what is this, 16? Okay, yeah, it's 2x16. 36, 48, 48. Actually, there was a bunch of text. I guess I should read that. Kingbank Sharpblade 7200 CL34 at 1.4. Timings can go lower. Don't want to go higher in terms of memory voltage. For gaming, should I run this or 6200? 7800 is faster than 6200. Like 7800 is like competitive in performance to 6400. And 8000 is just faster than 6400. But the obvious problem with 8000 is that a lot of the time it just doesn't work. Kind of similar to how like 6400 a lot of the time doesn't work. Test Mem 5 absolute overnight. It was stable. Yeah, cool. Wait, what? Temp maxed out at 69, which is not too nice, but this shoebox 4080 system. Wait, so what refresh interval are you running? 65K. Oh, I guess since you're at such a high frequency, it kind of solves that. 8000 stable with no GPU in the system, but training times are terrible. Yeah, the really high temperatures probably aren't helping. So one thing you could definitely lower is TRP. Like at 7800, I would expect that to work at like 38 or something. And then the rest of this looks like I wouldn't really change anything else. Yeah, like you might be able to run less WTRS. Instead of 6, you might be able to run 4. But really, I think the only adjustment here that would actually make, and it's not going to make a big difference because like TRP is just pre-charge, but you could lower that from 48 probably down to like 40 or 38. And that's going to make more of a difference than lowering WTRS by 2. At least I think it'll make more of a difference than lowering WTRS by 2. Though you could probably do both, and that should still work just fine. Yeah. Cool. So that's something different from the 6000 CL30 spam. Should I go for 6600? Well, I don't know. Is your SoC voltage lower than 1.2? In whatever you just sent me? Oh. Oh, it is. Yeah, see, this is the kind of CPU where I would be like, okay, this might actually do 6600. Yeah. With a chip like this, I would say try 6600. Because the thing is, even if you can't run 2200 FCLK at 6600, it's still going to be faster than 6400. So, yeah. That's a 7950X3D. 2x24. Yeah. Well, yeah, like, it's definitely, I'd say with this setup, it's definitely worth trying. And you're on a gene. Yeah, I would definitely try. I would, like, high probability of this working is what I'd say about this. And you shouldn't really, like, you might have to loosen some of your primaries, but the rest of this you probably don't have to change. Hey, this link finally works. More generic A-die, but at 6400 this time. 30, 38, 38, 38, 30, 64, 4, 8, 16, 2, 12, 450, 4, 1. Yep, very generic. At 1.45 volts. Getting blue screen at memtest start immediately with RDWR equals 18. Oh, that's interesting. Because I usually feel like I run RDWR unnecessarily loose, and I run it at like 16 and stuff. It's weird to me that 18 would be a problem. And you are on single rank, yeah. So that might just be kit to kit variance, I guess. Anyway, next submission. Okay, the Marius Florian, I think your link is not public, because it does not open for me. Anyway, I'll grab another one. It does not open. Okay, that works. Oh, it's a 265K. Oh, no. Oh, and we don't actually have any timings. You mean to show what is possible? You can make your very slow CPU better at, like, IDA memory bandwidth? Wait, what are we even supposed to see? Where? Oh, Task Manager, 9,000. Cool, so you caught up to the AMD APUs. To be fair, those are also slow, so, like... And they're actually slow. Yeah, they're probably slower than a 265K. Neat. Yeah, like Arrow Lake is another case of a very fancy memory controller strapped to a really garbage CPU. Kind of like the APUs. Okay, let's take a look at the super chat. Why didn't that work? Okay, now it did. 8 gigabit Hynix CJR. With 16 gigabit Micron. Wait, so you... Oh, no. Wait. Lower CLDO VDDP helped a ton. Cool. Yeah, like, VDDP does sweet spot on just about everything. CJR hates voltage. Yeah, that's... Not... Well, I mean, 1.35 is kind of low. I mean, 1.375 is kind of low, but... Yeah, makes sense. 1.8 PLL at 1.92. Stabilize it because of the Infinity Fabric. Oh boy. 18, 8, 21, 21, 31, 52, 4, 6, 16, 4, 9, 10, 5, 8, 6. Yeah, the timings look good considering what you're doing. So, yeah. Nice, I guess. And honestly, just, I, I, I wonder how long it takes for this to error out when you try to run a stress test on it. Though, if it's FCLK instability, then it probably just happens immediately. I mean... Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about this. Mostly just like, I guess congrats on getting it to work for you. Because I would just not do this. Could unstable SCLs be masked by very high WTRS, WTRL, or other timings? No. Well, maybe, but like... I'm trying to think of a scenario. Like, I've never run into that. Like... I mean, partially because I set SCLs and don't... Like, I set basically everything at the same time. And then really... Well, it depends on the platform, I guess, and the memory chips. But, like, at least for AM5, I set basically everything at the same time. And usually the problem I run into is TRP, TRAS or TRRDSCL. And that's like it. Actually, I've not even really run into the TRRDSCL, but I've seen other people run into that. So yeah. Anyway, next submission, because there's another super chat. And that didn't work for some reason, and now it did. Cool. So what do we have here? A Z790 setup with 6933, 32, 39, 39, 76, 8, 8, 416. So this looks like a very sensible setup. Yeah, 16, 8, 20, 20, 16, 8. This 76, this is unnecessary, and the same for that 50. This could probably run like 60, 40 instead. Or, well, like 60, 44, or like, these could both be a lot lower, these two right here. TWR pre could also be a lot lower than it is. Like 133 is insane. Not that that makes a huge difference to performance, but like, yeah, it could be a lot lower. And this is single rank, I'm assuming? Can't see. It's probably single rank. I don't think dual rank would work at 6933. Also, if you're on Intel, like lowering TRC, wait, is this on 13th, 14th gen? Yeah, okay, so lowering TRC DWR is worth it. Lowering TRP, also worth it. And lowering TRAS, also worth it. Because lowering all of those will boost performance, and you're on an Asus motherboard, so you don't, like, there's no reason not to do that. Whereas if you're on like a Gigabyte board, you straight up can't control TRC DWR or TRP separately from TRCD. But this is an Asus board, so like TRC DWR could be 16, TRP could be like 32, 34, and TRS I'd probably start at like 40. I'd probably just drop it to 40 and leave it there. Yeah. Oh, also, oh no, your TWR is just because your actually, it's not even because your TWR pre is insanely high. It's because your TWR PDEN for some reason is low. And the way TWR is calculated in this app is all weird. Because technically, TWR stands for write recovery, which is just write to precharge. And the funny thing is, like, the write to precharge timing is 133. I don't know why TWR is calculated off of TWR PDEN. Because this is write to power down enable, which is not even remotely the same thing as write to precharge. I don't know why that gets used for write recovery calculations by Asus. That never made sense to me. Anyway, so the WR pre, you could lower that to like easily. You could definitely lower it to 90. You can probably go all the way down to like 30, 40 something. But as a starting point, I probably just drop it to 90. Oh, this is 2x32 Corsair Vengeance. Oh, that's actually impressive then. Also, you should do something about your... Actually, no, I don't think they're... No, I think you could try lowering the dual rank timings. Not by... Actually, wait, no, you're at 6933. So this might actually be about as low as that goes. So yeah, the only thing I would actually change is TWR pre and the primaries. And then your right to read same group, right to read different group, because these are insanely high. They don't need to be that high. Anyway, there's another super chat, so I guess we'll take a look at that. And that didn't work. And it didn't work again. Okay, now it did. Got 2023 dual rank MDI. That is... Wait, what? Wait, what? Oh, wait, it's at 6,000. Like, wait, does it say on a Potato 7600 plus ASRock? Oh, you mean the CPU? I'm like, memory? Okay, no, that's a CPU. That's not memory. Why do you have 64 gigs with a 7600? Anyway, 6,000, 30, 40, 40, 40, 80, 4, 8, 24, 416, 54. Why 54? Like, why not 48? Anyway, 500, 4, 4, 12, 16, 6, 6, 6, 8, 8, 50K. MDI is usually capable of running the TRCD and TRP and TRAS a bit lower than this. Like, not, like, you're not going to be running, like, actually, you might be able to run, like, 30, yeah, I would think, like, 30, 30, and then just, like, 38s for all of this, including TRAS. I would expect that to work. And then, like, TWR is, like, I don't know why you don't have that at 48. That doesn't make any sense to me. Other than that, looks like very generic Hynix timings. Tested stable N to 7. TW. Oh. That's interesting. That is very interesting. Why is it... Wait. You know, there's like a slight chance that might be related to your VDDIO. Because that's basically the right voltage. Like, I'm not... the thing is, I've never run into this behavior before. Like, I don't think I've ever run a memory kit without TWR set to 48 on AM5. But I've also never had dual rank MDI. Because I'm assuming this is 2 by... Yeah, this is 2 by 32. And from a more gaming performance perspective... I would probably, like, instead of worrying about the timings, I would probably try to get this to work at 6200, or just try to raise the FCLK at this point. Yeah. Like, I don't know, the motherboard might not want to run 6200 on dual rank, but that's what I, like, because the thing is, like, your subtimings are already pretty optimized, right? So, like, the reason you see, like, benchmarks where it's like, oh, memory timings made a huge difference to performance is because they're comparing to, like, JDEC or XMP. And JDEC and XMP are really, really slow. So even if you you don't have to, like, run the world's tightest timings to get already really good performance, because you're, like the big performance jump happens just because you go from Expo to XM, like, from, like, garbage auto timings to literally anything tighter. So at this point, basically, the only thing that would really make much of a difference is more memory clock, more FCLK. You could probably lower your primaries a bit. No, well, I mean, if you shoved a bunch of voltage into it, your cast latency might come down. But yeah, like TWR isn't even that important in general. It's just I find it weird that it's not at 48. And same kind of thing for TWRD. I really do wonder if that isn't related to the VDDIO. Like, that would be weird, but I don't usually run VDDIO at 1.25, so yeah. Not sure about that. Oh, I've also never used this motherboard, so that just might be like a quirk of this board. And another thing, I'm not sure, do you actually need that 1.24 SoC? Because if you need 1.24 at 6,000, then this isn't going to do 6,200. But if that SoC is like, you just, like, because this kind of looks like you copied my Easy Hynix timings. If that SoC voltage is just a leftover from the Easy Hynix timings, you might actually have a chance at running 6,200. Haven't tried minimizing the SoC voltage. Yeah, then I would just try going for like 6,200. If you get really lucky, you might be able to run like 6,400. Anyway, next super chat. Man, if that super chat ends up being some incredibly generic Hynix timings, you'll just prove my point about, like, why I made that spreadsheet. It is a Ryzen system. Oh, look. It's extremely generic Hynix timings. Wait, is this a 16 gigabit MDI? No, it can't be. That. Oh, I know the TRP is terrible. Huh. $6,400 1-to-1 works at 1.26. Need to test more for stability. I'm not very impressed by this, like, 3-hour test mem5 run and, like, 2-hour Carhu. I mean, 2-hour VT3. It's better than nothing, I guess. It is single rank. We got, yeah, 38, 38, 38, 28, 68, 48. The timings are fine. Is this really 16 gigabit MDI, though? Because, like, I'm assuming this is... Oh, wait, no, this looks like you upgraded from a older CPU. Yeah, so the timings look fine. But see, this... Stuff like this right here is exactly why I went and made a freaking spreadsheet, because this is like the same damn... Like, this is basically the same damn timings. Like, I don't know why people send me this stuff. And pay me to look at it. Anyway, there's another super chat. And, oh. I'm very good at copy-pasting, apparently. Why didn't that work? Okay. Wait, what? Why would you run this? 6400... 2x16 on a 14700K. Why wouldn't you run this at 6800? Like, the funny thing is your timings are so loose that this would probably work at 6800 as is. I mean, you might have to loosen the TRCD. Yeah, you'd probably have to loosen TRCD. But that would probably actually be enough to make it work at 6800. Maybe also loosen TRFC, because that is actually kind of low. But the rest of this is like, yeah, this, I would honestly expect this to work at 6800 unless your CPU is like horrible or the motherboard is horrible, which is not impossible. No, I refuse to believe that there's a 14700K that won't run 6800. Now the motherboard, that's a different issue. I have no idea. The motherboard might actually not be able to do 6800, though I do think that's kind of unlikely. What, 2200 FCLK? Oh, in the previous submission? Yeah, but that's just like a matter of getting lucky. Right. 6400 didn't boot. Oh, dual rank. Wait, but weren't you at 6000? Or were you at 6200? I don't remember anymore. No, you were at 6000. Yeah, I don't think 6400 would boot. Like, kind of, like, I mean, well, yeah, no, I would assume that I still think 6400 is not that common for Ryzen systems to be able to run in 1-to-1 mode. And obviously dual rank makes that worse. Not by much, but it does. Yeah, also that spreadsheet is in the description of the stream. And technically all the information in that spreadsheet is publicly available on the internet. There's nothing special in there. In fact, the timings in that spreadsheet are geared more towards I can't follow basic instructions than max performance. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to pay for something, it should at least work. Right? Like, I'd say that's like the priority. If you're paying for something, it should work. So when I was like thinking about what timings to put in that spreadsheet, My priority was to maximize probability of working rather than absolute best performance. Because, yeah, and even then there's like some timings where I'm like, man, I might be cutting that kind of close. I mean, struggling to get 8,000 to work on the Tai Chi, 9800X3D. I haven't tried my Tai Chi yet. Like, I'm way, like, well, like, I've literally only booted my 9800X3D yesterday, and I haven't even done anything with it yet. So I haven't figured out what I want to do with it first. Anyway, yeah, so this, like, my only suggestion for this is loosen TRCDRD to, like, I mean, TRCD. Well, TRCDRD in this case, because your WR is at 16, which is fine. So TRCD to, like, 42, and then try to run this at 6800, and maybe TCL to 34, and that should work. Like, honestly, I would fully expect that to actually work. And you shouldn't even have to touch any of the other timings. Anyway, so next submission, I guess. Is it important to lower RTP from 23 to 12? Not really, but you're you're leaving performance on the table. Like, RTP is only used by the memory controller when when after a read operation, it wants to close a row. Which happens, well, kind of depends on what kind of workload you're running, because if you have a lot of small bits of data that are, like, scattered out in a, like, the pre-charge timings are basically very important if you have a workload that has a lot of small bits of data in a large data set, because it's statistically likely that it's going to be hopping row to row constantly. And then that timing is going to be getting used constantly. You're just going to be hitting pre-charge over and over and over again, because it's like, oh, I want to read I want to read one address in this row, and then I want to read a different address in a different row, and then I want to read a different address in another row. And if it's always a different row, then every time you want to go from one row to another, it's going to hit TRAS, it's going to hit TRP, it's going to hit RTP, it's going to hit everything with P in it is going to get hit. Actually, not literally everything with a P, but a lot of the like RTP is going to get hit, TRAS is going to get hit, TRP is going to get hit. So in that scenario, if you want that to happen quickly, you want low pre-charge timings. But if the software doesn't do that, then that timing doesn't do anything. Right? Which is why, like, a lot of the timings that you tighten don't really affect IDA very much, because IDA is, like, sequential. Like, the IDA benchmark is, like, you have sequential read, sequential write. The copy test, I think, is basically sequential as well. And then the last test, which is labeled memory latency, is memory latency at doing nothing, because it basically sends a memory request every couple milliseconds, which is why it's affected by power down mode, because this memory controller, like, the latency test in IDA does so little memory access that the memory controller literally goes to sleep and then has to wake up and then read something. And that's why, like, IDA is like, oh yeah, you turn off power down mode, and IDA is like, oh man, it's so much faster now. But a lot of other applications don't put the memory controller to sleep, so turning off power down for them actually doesn't do anything, right? Like, for a Y cruncher, turning off power down is completely irrelevant, because Y cruncher is hammering the memory system the entire time. There's always a memory access in a queue, so there's no reason to ever put the memory to sleep. So yeah, and, like, RTP is kind of a similar situation where it's like, I don't think IDA's latency test is going to react to RTP, and the bandwidth tests aren't going to react to it either, because you're going to have, like, a block of read commands that's basically the length of the row, and then you're going to have a pre-charge at the end, and it's like, yeah, that, like, you know, you're going to spend, like, you're basic like when you open a row, it's going to be TRCD TCL, and then until you close the row, it's just going to be read to read different group. Yeah, especially for IDA, it's just going to be read to read different group for like hundreds of clock cycles, if not, might be thousands even. And then eventually at the end of that, it's going to go, oh, RTP, TRP, and then it's going to start over and it's going to go TRCD, TCL, and then again, read. And then after, because there's like 1,000 address, I think it's like 1,000 addresses per row. I don't remember. The like physical details of how RAM is organized is not something I'm very good at remembering. It's not usually much of a concern. So like RTP, I'd like just lower it. Like that's my approach to all of the timings is like I don't really concern myself with that much with like how important like just don't leave it like yeah, I would just lower it. Like 12, especially on DDR5 is not hard to run if you have Hynix. So yeah. Anyway, next submission because there's another super chat. Oh, decided to see if my CPU secondhand motherboard could do 8,000. E650. Man, I really need to test some of these 6-layer gigabyte boards. Because I don't have any. 7500F. That's a lot of SoC voltage for 8,000. 38, oh yeah, 8i, so 38, 48, 48, 48, 50, 98, 8832, 618, 500, 88, 65,000 refresh interval. Yeah, like, I mean, this isn't super tight, but it's not going to get much better than this. So yeah, this looks good. Also, I'm assuming this is a team group memory kit, right? Because UD5, I think, is a team group part number. Correct, IDA doesn't react to TRP. Yeah, it wouldn't. Because you basically have sequential read, and then you have latency with minimal, like, row hopping. Like, TRP would really affect... Like, I've actually been thinking about making a video just, like, dedicated to, like, the idea of what is memory latency. Because it's, like... If you're talking about, like, I want to access one... Like, you have one read operation, then it's one set of timings. But then if you have, like, a lot of read operations... Depending on where those read operations are going, it's going to be a completely different set of timings, and the latency is going to be completely different. Yeah. Anyway, these timings look good. Also, nice TRFC2. Is it the fabric or IO die that's the main bottleneck for Zen? It's the Infinity fabric. It's just really narrow. Like, technically, AMD's memory controller is just also not very efficient with its memory accesses, which leads to the kind of funny situation of, like, you're actually better just... Like, more UCLK is better for performance on Ryzen 7000 than FCLK is, because the memory controller itself is just not very good at getting things done quickly. Right. Like, you'd think, like, maxing out FCLK, and there's, like, some... let me find it. I have this really good image of some testing from somebody else who, like, went more formal testing on this, because this is all stuff that I'll, like, vaguely check for when running benchmarks. And I did have this, like, massive spreadsheet that I was working on at one point, but then it just didn't go anywhere. Because, like, I saw the general trend, and I was like, cool. So that's that. I don't care. And didn't, like, bother to, like, flesh it out to, like, an exhaustive degree. Where is this? Man, I very distinctly remember being annoyed that I didn't have multiple copies of this image, and I can't find it again. I'm incredible. Anyway, So this is somebody else's testing, not mine, but it's very good. And it basically matches my testing. And like I have a spreadsheet that's like, I mean, I didn't test a bunch of games. I was mainly doing synthetics, but yeah. So the thing you'll notice here is that like if you go from 1733 FCLK to 2200 FCLK, it does like nothing to performance, right? It's like a 3% uplift. And then you have like 6,000 my easy timings versus 6,000 fully tuned. Wait, where is it? Fully tuned 2200 FCLK. So that jumps up by like another 7%, right? And that's like, there's like a 10% FCLK increase. There's better timings. And it like, it's like it's not even, because it's not even a 7% uplift. Right? Because you have to account for the fact that we're already at like over 127%. So anyway, so this is like what, 134. I'll just round it up to 135, and I'll round down mine to 127. So yeah, that's like a 6% uplift, right? And you're going from my easy timings at 3,000, 3,000, 2,000 to 6,000 fully tuned 2200 FCLK, and it's like a 6% difference. Because the FCLK just doesn't matter that much. All right. And then like 2100 to 2200 is like a percent. Like the memory timings make more of a difference in this than the FCLK does. Actually, the like 2000 over here with fully tuned timings like shows that. All right, and then there's like a bunch of timings down here. And actually, this image is on Reddit. I guess I could have dropped a link for this. But yeah. Also, this is where like this is another, like 7800 is just faster than like everything tested here. Not by much, but then like 8000 even pushes that advantage further, right? So that's why like I've been making videos about like DDR5 8000, because even like at some point with 1-to-1 mode, you just hit a wall and it's not gonna get better. Whereas in 2-to-1 mode, you do have the option of like 8000 and higher. Also, I should point out, this is on the non-Vcache CCD. So this is really trying to like get the memory, like this is as memory bottlenecked as it's going to get, right? Because this is the high frequency CCD on a 7950X3D, not the Vcache one. Whereas if you have an X3D CPU, it makes even less of a difference. Anyway, so yeah. So that's why like the like massive, like this is why I don't get why people are like, I see a lot of comments that are like, oh, more FCLK, and it's like, but it, like if it's not especially 2200, it's like if it's not stable, it's going to make your system have the most annoying of issues, and it barely does anything. Unless you're running like Y-Cruncher, because Y-Cruncher's VT, like not VT3 the stress test, but Y-Cruncher Pi, the actual like benchmark, is so memory starved that it basically scales linearly with FCLK. Because it's like it just needs so much memory bandwidth, but it's like out there as far as like memory bandwidth needs go. Meanwhile, everything else is more about like memory latency. Right. Anyway, there's another submission, so let's take a look at that. Interesting. Um, M4 mem tuning made for more sense. Yeah, it did. Um, or actually, I don't know if it made more sense. It had like very strict rules. Also, yeah, like it had very, very strict rules. Like never decouple your FCLK, never. But because one-to-one mode on Ryzen is always decoupled, it's never synchronized. Like at best, you have a bit of a scheduling optimization of the input-output buffers that kicks in at like 3-2, which didn't used to be a thing. At launch, it was like any amount of extra FCLK was just slightly more memory performance. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so that is a really good CPU score for a 5900X. Yeah. This is, like, unfortunately, this also doesn't really scale that much with memory in my experience. And then we've got, 3800, 12, 8, 11 B die. Yeah. What voltage is this at? I'm guessing 1.85. How do you test memory latency for free? There's PyPrime. There's ClamBench. Um, which is like ClamBench is basically like a proper IDA replacement. It's a bit clunky to use, but it actually like it gives you the memory latency numbers based on like how much memory like mixed with memory bandwidth. So it's not just like IDA's memory latency test is like we send one memory request every so often and see how long that takes. This actually goes like, okay, I'm reading like gigabytes of data per second. How long does it take to get that data? So you have like a loaded latency measurement. I don't know if there's an option for like a full random latency test. Because that's like worst case scenario where instead of like... Yeah, I think that might be an option. There's like a bunch of options on that one for checking your memory latency. And that's a really, really good test. Way better than IDA. Also free. Just kind of hard to use. Which tends to be the downside to a lot of the free software. Oh, this is 1.974. It mentioned. Maximum 3000. Ran for Country Cup backup. OS died. Yeah, I would expect... Oh my god, that TRFC is so low. That makes sense. Like, TRFC on BDI does scale with voltage, but man, that is really low. Yeah, this is like peak DDR4 right here. As long as you don't care about it being stable, because this is so, this is unusable. What the MaxMem thing here, this literally means that this system, like, this is two 8 gig kits, right? Like, I mean, two 8 gig sticks in this system, so it's 16 gigs in total. But the OS is set to only access 3 gigabytes. And the reason it's set up like that is because Samsung BDI at high voltages, if you try to access all of the memory, it's even more unstable. Like, you won't even be able to get into Windows if you... Like, I'm assuming just the OS trying to address all of the memory. Or, I'm assuming there's, like, some kind of indexing or something for the memory. Like, just doing that crashes it. So, you can't even access all of the memory at that point. But the little bit of memory you can access is really, really fast. Yeah. So that's kind of fun, but not very useful. I've kind of actually toyed with the idea of making my own memory latency test where like I intentionally write something really bad. Like I was wondering if you could make like a... Like I was thinking like intentionally make something that's like super heavy on pre-charge, which conceptually to me would mean huge data set, and then like you randomly ping parts of it, right? You just absolutely just make it impossible for the CPU to try optimize the access, because CPUs and memory controllers are actually designed to like, you know, try to like figure out, hey, how are you going to access this data set so that, you know, we don't have to go through pre-charge every time you send a memory request. I was thinking like if you had like a really, really big array of like of just data, and then you just hit random parts of it, like completely randomly, where it was like a gig of data, and then it's just like, yeah, I want to access the very first part and the very end, and then some random bit in the middle, and then you just do that constantly. That would probably hammer TRAS, TRP, and TR like RTP. And then if you also wanted to write back into it, it would hit write to pre-charge. Anyway, let's grab another submission. $6,400, 2133 now stable. I honestly at 6,400, I would just say at 2133. Like you could try for 2,200, but like 2166 is just going to be slower. Anyway, what's this? Ooh, 8,000 on an X670E Steel Legend. I wonder if ASRock's like support for 8,000 got a lot better over time, because I haven't like I never got like more than 7,600 working on my live mixer, and that should be kind of similar to this board, depending on how old that X670 Steel Legend is. Anyway, 8,000, 36, 46, 46, 46. You can lower the TRP. Like you can run lower TRP than that. 46, 92. Yeah, TRC you could also run lower, 6624. I am relatively certain that in 2-to-1 mode, the TRRDs don't actually go below 6, but it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, don't go below 8, but doesn't really matter that much. Like, it's not going to make your system unstable. It just means that the performance isn't going to improve, which is like, whatever. WTRS2, 18, that's cool. TWR 48, TRFC 480, 81, 6, 18. Yeah, see, I do run the RTP looser than, than it has to be. And then refresh interval at 65,000. That's cool. And, oh, this has only run for 40 minutes. But, oh well. Like, just this running at all is kind of impressive. Actually, I was able to boot 8,000 on the live mixer. It just never was stable. So yeah, I guess they could have tuned that out with some BIOS updates. I should try that board. Man, I have too much stuff to test. Anyway, I'll grab another submission. Oh, you've actually run this for 3 hours at this point. Cool. I'd also try Prime 95 large FFTs or Y-Crunch or VT3 on this. Because the like pure memory tests, like TestMem5, Carhu and stuff, they don't, in my experience, they kind of don't catch VDDP issues very well. I don't know why that is, but they just don't. Though 1.15, as far as I know, for an ASRock board should be correct. That's usually like ASRock boards seem to need a lot of VDDP. So yeah. Anyway, next submission. Oh boy. This is a lot of stuff. Oh, this is bad. No, don't, no. What is this? Fails within seconds in Prime 95. I do not know what to change to make these better or stable. Are these auto terminations? Because these just look wrong for an Asus board. Yeah, like that pull-up doesn't look correct. And that DRAM DQS is... This is a Patriot kit, isn't it? Yeah. Man, my experience with those, like I have like the 8200 rated 8 A-die version, and they do not work. Like, they're bad. And I just like I got a comment from somebody saying that there's like a very specific set of timings that you have to run, and those timings are also bad. So as far as I'm concerned at that point, it's just like, well, the memory bad. But this is an M-die kit. But yeah, the first thing I'm noticing is like that pull-up looks wrong. The Park DQS looks wrong. Then again, I don't know, like Patriot might be doing something weird with their memory sticks. Yeah, no, I don't think this is a board issue. I think it might be a Patriot RAM issue. Also, did you change that Proc ODT yourself? Or does that mention? Oh, wait, you tried 40, 40, 30, 34, 34. Wait, why are you setting pull down to 40? Did you try pull down, like, what I was, like, like, my thought on this is what I would try is, like, 40 high impedance, DQ, like, DQDS, like, the drive strengths on the memory side at 48 and 48. That could still be wrong. Like, I don't know, like, the Patriot sticks might just be weird with, like, they did something custom to the PCB. Error 6. I wouldn't read into this very much. Like, my assumption with this is just the terminations are wrong, and it's just not training properly. Also, you need... Yeah, you're also... Like, your VDDQ is, like, sky high. Yeah, I don't know, like... So, my experience with the one Patriot Viper Extreme 5 kit that I have is that it's just not stable at 8,000. It's more stable than this, though. I got it to around 3 hours on the MSI board. And also mine is 8i. And, but yeah, like, I don't know what to do about this. I think those Patriot sticks just like have some, like the PCB is just different from what the boards are designed like expect, and then it just doesn't work. If you leave it on auto, is my theory. It's not going to be a timing issue. I think those sticks just have like cause signaling problems, and I don't know if it's actually possible to tune those problems out with the settings that are available in the BIOS. Hopefully. But yeah, I think honestly with this kit I would just give up and try to run something in 1-to-1 mode for now. Because even like 7800 for me on the like Patriot sticks I have is like a problem. And 7800 on like any other kit that I have is not a problem. So like I don't know what they did, but those sticks just, yeah. Anyway, there's another submission, so let's take a look at that. Ooh. 8200, 34, 46, 46, 42, 46, 88, 6, 624, 216, 492. Nice memory controller. Oh, and a 0.95 SoC and 2200 FCLK, which does make sense because you can't sync to 2050. Now I wonder how this, like... Yeah, I do kind of wonder how this performs. Like, my guess would be it's like a couple percentage points faster. than like an 8000 setup. Because it's a couple percentage points higher clocked. So that's about as much as you can hope for. Um, and yeah, this is a team group memory kit, 8000 rated. I really need to buy some team group sticks. Have you tried running Prime 95 on this, though? Is something I'm wondering. Also, I think my YouTube tab crashed, so give me a second. Error 6, in my opinion, is too high CLDO VDDP. His VDDP isn't that high, though. And he tried less VDDP, and I can't imagine, like, I don't know if... Yeah, no, I don't think that's a VDDP issue. Like, maybe the CPU can't run 8000, but I think, honestly, it's probably the Patriot memory sticks. Because, like, my ones are also horrible. Is Kingston Renegade better bin than Fury? I don't know. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure the Furies are supposed to be better, but I doubt there's actually a difference, because usually, like, a lot of the time, like, the speed spec will actually affect the binning, but the heat spreaders that they put on the memory sticks, those don't. Like, I've done DDR5 8000 on a 6000 CL30 Corsair Vengeance kit. I do plan to do that again now with 9000 series, because the last time I did it, it was like very specific hardware combination. But yeah, like, I also have G-Skill kits to test right now, so that's like, man, I might not be able to get that done before I leave for Christmas. CPU clocks? No, I can't measure CPU clocks with an oscilloscope. The voltage is yes. And different power plans, why? Anyway, let's go back to this. I mean, I don't really have much to say about this, other than just, like, nice. Because that's what it is. It's also on a Gene, which helps. Because I'm pretty sure the Gene is still the best memory overclocking board for AM5. And it's a real shame that Asus refuses to sell it to people. Let's see if power plans are just placebo or what. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, and I don't care. Anyway, let's take a look at another submission. Oh, Team Group T Create Expert. Voltage reporting wrong. SOC is 1.25, VDDI 1.35, VDD 1.565. I can't run RTP lower for some reason. Can't do that also. Yeah, that seems to... I'm not sure if that's related to GDM, but I have run into sticks where, like, you can't run low TRP. Though, your TRFZ is so high that this might be M-die, which would explain that. Can you run 400 TRFC? Because this might not be A-die. If you can't run, like 480 is like M-die territory, not A-die. I have a 6000 CL28 G-Skill kit. Yeah. I haven't, like, actually... Oh, no, it's not in a system right now, but yeah, I do have that. Like, G-Skill sent me 2 8000 kits and a 6000 CL28. The main thing I'm wondering about that 6000 CL28 kit is if I can get it to run 8000. Because I'll be honest with you, the expo performance on that is going to be basically the same as a 6000 CL30 kit. Because cast latency does not matter that much. So it's more like I think it's interesting from like, oh, getting like super, like in 1-to-1 mode, it might be interesting for trying to do something like, say, CL24 at 6200 or 26 at 6400. Maybe even 24 at 6400. But from like an actual performance perspective, I don't really expect it to be like anything like super special. Like this is gonna forever be a problem with XMP and Expo. Is just like they don't actually control the timings that matter. They just control the cast so like I'm interested I'm interested in the kit because like, oh, it would be really cool to see a kit that does like super low cast latency. But then from like, what does that actually do for performance? It's like, not much. So, yeah. Like, again, like we'll refer to this. Right? Like, my extremely lazy timings over here are not really much slower than if you like bend over backwards and run 2200 FCLK. There's like a 6% difference between these two. In other words, if somebody randomly changed your system settings and you weren't allowed to open an FPS monitor, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And this is way more than just like a cast latency adjustment for that 6000. Right, like I think the main difference is actually the nitro settings, which my easy timings didn't deal with at all. Yeah. And that's like, so the whole like I get why memory manufacturers make those like super low cast latency kits, and I think they're kind of cool. But then from like the reality of what it does to performance is like, it barely does anything. Looks cool in screenshots though, when you have like CL24 at 6200. It's just that it also performs basically the same as CL28 at 6200 or 6400 or whatever speed it is that I said. Anyway, wait, was I done with that submission? Oh, no. Yeah, no, I suspect this might be M-die. Is the main thing that, like, I think is limiting your timings. Because if this is M-die, then that would explain why the TRP doesn't go any lower and why the TRFC is at 480. Because A-die should go lower. But then the RTP, that might also be an M-die thing. That RTP doesn't get super low. Anyway, honestly, with settings like this, I would just leave it alone. Like, this is gonna be, like, this is fast. It's not, like, I wouldn't stress about it. And RTP, like, You could sort of think of RTP, like if you lower RTP by like 10 cycles, it's kinda like if your TRCD was 10 cycles shorter, or if your TCL, like for very specific scenarios, it's kind of like some other time. Because you have to think about it like you're, like you'll have like a chain of timings that happen before a certain like operation is completed, right? And so if any of those timings is lowered by that amount, like that sequence gets that much shorter. Which is why like individual timings don't make that much of a difference when you go like, oh, I'm gonna lower cast latency by 4, and it's like, yeah, but your cast latency is in a chain of like 6 timings that all like, so you lowered one of them and the other two are like 30 and 50. And it's like, well, that didn't do anything because your overall number of clock cycles before the thing you're trying to do faster happens is still basically the same, right? Like if you go from idle to a read command, right? You go idle to read, that's going to be a TRCD, which is 37 cycles, and then it's going to be a TCL, which is 28, right? So that's like 37 plus 28. And so if you lower cast latency by 4, it's still 37 plus 24 for like a idle to read operation. Now, if you're going from like row to row, then it's going to be like your first row open is going to be like TRCD plus TCL, and then you might have to wait for TRAS. Actually, well, if your TRAS is at 30, you won't be waiting for that. So it'll be like TRCD, TCL, straight into TRP, right? Then once TRP is done, actually, will you go? No, because you'll go TRCD, TCL, RTP, TRP. Then you're going to go TRCD again because you need to open a different row, and then you can run TCL, right? So if you have like 2 read operations to 2 different rows in the same bank, one after the other, the cast latency gets hit twice, but there's so many other timings in between those 2 cast latencies that it's just like, eh. It doesn't really matter if you lower the cast latency by 4. Now, in regular, admittedly, a lot of the time, the memory controller won't have to be opening like different rows constantly. But yeah, so it depends on the scenario. But like that's why like lowering cast latency a bunch is like, it looks cool in screenshots, but it doesn't actually do that much. I also have a video where I show like super low cast latency against, and there I think I kind of cheated it because like a lot of that was TREFI if I remember correctly. But like, yeah, there's a reason why it's just like in my opinion with the cast latency. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't stress out about trying to like tighten this more. Especially for like a daily setup. Like, my view on this is different when you're benching, right? Because if you're like trying to get a high score in some benchmark, you don't care if it's unstable. So like running every timing on the ragged edge of like, oh yeah, this like barely works at this point is like, yeah, this is fine, right? But doing that for your daily system where it's like, oh, my stress test is crashing like 3 hours in because one timing is like ever so slightly too close to the limit, is like, that's kind of a massive waste of time. Right? Because that timing, like raising it by 2 ticks, you won't be able to tell the difference, and also you won't have to run that like you won't have to sit there trying to figure out why your stress test is erroring out constantly. Anyway, there is another super chat, so let's take a look at that. Trying to stabilize 4400 CL19 Viper is at 3800 on a X570 ORS Master. Settings can't pass Prime 95 large FFTs. Primaries are stable, but I just raised TRRDL to 6. Also, that TRFC is horrendous. Why are you running a TRRDS that high? And your TWR is also bad. And RTP is also bad. But yeah, I would raise TRRDL to 6. Like, there's a reason why, like, I usually give people, like, 4, 6, 16. right? And don't usually give them 4416 because while 4416 is peak, it also doesn't work a lot of the time. And you're at 1.5 volts, 16, 10, 16, 16, 36. Man, yeah, this is really loose on the primaries. Yeah, I would just set TRL to 6. If that doesn't fix it, then I am not sure what's going on with that. Honestly, might be better, like in that scenario, it might be better to try run 3733 at like CL14, TRCD15, RTP14, TRAS 21, TRC, okay, maybe not 21 TRAS, but like 24, TRC at 38. Oh, also thinking of trying an older BIOS version. You know, I haven't used AM4 in ages, but I do remember AMD at some point like royally breaking memory overclocking. Wait, that Proco DT just doesn't look right for this board. Wait, no, is this a first revision master or later revision master? That still doesn't look right. 60 is really high. It should be 40, I think. And these should probably be like 731, not disabled off in 5. But yeah, the thing is, I haven't messed with AM4 in ages, so like it could be a BIOS issue. That's definitely possible, but I think if you're going to be rolling back the BIOS, you're going to have to roll it back like a year or something. Or more than that. Actually, maybe more than that. You might have to roll it back like 2-3 years before you get a BIOS where the AGSA, like where it worked properly. Actually, I might be saying terminations for dual rank. I don't... But... yeah, so I'm not entirely sure, but this is... like, I would... honestly, the timings that you're running here are so bad that you're probably better off working at a lower frequency, getting some good timings working at a lower frequency, and then trying to figure out why higher frequencies don't work, than being at a high frequency with garbage. Because even if you do get this passing, like, the settings are garbage anyway. Right? So it's like you're just making garbage. You're spending a lot of time on garbage. Yeah, that like RTTWR is usually, yeah, that's why I said 731, because like I remember that being like a very common sequence for a lot of AM4 motherboards is 731. But that is for dual rank, and I'm not sure if it also works on single rank. It probably does. Anyway, next submission, I guess, because yeah, I don't really have anything more to say about this. I don't think it's a memory issue. I think it's like a board BIOS being stupid, bad settings kind of situation. Anyway, we've got a 5800 X3D on an X570S Tomahawk running 3733 with... oh, Kingston. Hynix, probably. Maybe Micron. Nah, probably Hynix, because 18, 20, 20, 21, 46. Yeah, this is probably Hynix, isn't it? And then we've got 4616. Oh, I'm back on top chat instead of live chat. 4616, 4816, 494, 44. Dual rank, yep, 4466. And then we've got like 723. But this is 64 gigs, so that kind of makes sense. Yeah, this looks good. I'm assuming it's stable, otherwise, like, you wouldn't be sending it to me without asking for, like, help or something. Looks like H16A, H16C. Yeah, that's what I would assume. What's the best binned DDR5 kit you've come across so far? So I haven't tried to sort my DDR5 kits by silicon quality yet. And it's also kind of hard to define that because on one end, you have variance in like max frequency and then you have variance in minimum timings. And they're not the same. Like minimum timings in like with Ryzen, say minimum timings in 1-to-1 mode does not affect your ability to run DDR5, like is not directly tied to your ability to run DDR5 8000. Because being able to run DDR5 8000 is a matter of, is the signal from the memory stick getting to the CPU in a good condition? And is the memory stick able to read the signal from the CPU correctly? Right? Which has nothing to do with how long it takes the memory stick to fetch some data internally, which is what like CAS latency does or TRCD does or any of your timings do. So yeah, and I haven't like spent time to go through and like check the memory sticks that I have for like either. Well, I've kind of been going through checking which memory kits can and can't run 8000. I have several ADI kits that don't run 8000, including that 8200 Patriot kit. Which I find incredibly annoying. I'm hoping that like it's just an incompatibility specifically with MSI boards and it'll work on Asus or something, but don't have high hopes at this point. And so, yeah, so the binning side of it, like I don't know. Also, I haven't tested that much RAM. Like here, like the thing with like binning is like I feel like if you don't have literally hundreds of samples, your opinion on what the best binned whatever is just irrelevant. Right? Because maybe that one 6200, like maybe that one 8000 CL38 kit you got was just especially lucky. Or that one 6000 CL30 kit was especially lucky. And that doesn't mean all of them are really good. It just means you got really lucky. And if you bought like if you bought like 100 of them and they were all the same, then you could say, okay, this is, like these are all the same. So now we know that that bin is like that speed bin does X settings. But we don't know if it's a good, like, but we now don't, like, so you have like 100 of the same kit, so you can at least say something that's like, okay, this seems pretty consistently to do XYZ settings, but you can't say anything about any other kits because you didn't test them. Right, so if you test like one kit of each random speed bin, which is kind of the situation I'm in, I don't feel like that gives you a good, like, hey, this is a really good speed bin. Right? Like, because a lot of the memory kit bins that like exist right now for DDR5, like they're not very hard. I think maybe like G-Skill's CL28 at 1.4 is probably kind of hard. And the 8000 is actually like that is a bin. Like there are ADI, especially for ADI. For MDI, I'm not sure, but for ADI, it's definitely a bin because there are some kits that will simply not do 8000. Now, in my experience, ADI will pretty consistently do 7600. So I wouldn't say anything up to 7600 is particularly indicative of anything, but I would suspect that like with the validation standards of the memory manufacturers, I would assume that kits rated for 7200 plus are probably more likely to do 8000 than kits rated for 6000. That's not to say I haven't seen kits that are rated at like 6000 CL30 that do 8000, but I also have a 6000 CL30 kit that very much doesn't do 8000. So, it depends. I also have a 6000 CL30 kit that does do 8000, but that's MDI, so that's not really that useful. So, yeah, like the binning question is just like I feel like a lot of the like, this like I feel like a lot of the, like this speed bin is like a really good bin. If a lot of the time to me, it feels like superstition. Where it's like you have a couple people who bought the same memory kit. And maybe that bin is actually good and very consistent. So like they all get roughly the same results. But that doesn't automatically mean it's like the best bin. Because unless all of those people also tested a bunch of other kits, which they probably didn't do, right? Like if you're doing like, if you're trying to base memory kits off of like community experience, um, like people randomly finding one speed bin that's good doesn't automatically mean they found the best bin, right? It's better than like having no idea though. So yeah, anyway, I grabbed a random submission and let's take a look at it now. And Micron 16 gigabit eDie. Oh, well, unfortunately I don't know anything about it, but well, other than that it's bad. And yeah, this is bad. Maybe if you loosen out the primaries a bunch, you might be able to run 3400 and like higher FCLK. Though, if you're stuck at 3200 and can't do anything, what motherboard even is this? If you're hard stuck at 3200, you might be better off trying to push the FCLK to like 1866. Yeah, because especially on 3000 series, like you have two CCXs that communicate through the FCLK. Like FCLK on 3000 series is absolutely critical to like core-to-core communication, because you have 3 cores on one CCX, and then you have another 3 cores on a different CCX, and they have to talk to each other over the Infinity Fabric. So if you have an application that uses 4 threads, that 4th thread is going to be very upset about the low FCLK. At least if the threads have to talk to each other, which say Cinebench doesn't have to do that. Oh, it hates voltage. Well, that's great. Can a 48 by 2 kit do 8000 by any chance? I'm pretty sure I've seen somebody do 7800 on 2x48. And actually, I think during one of these live streams, somebody posted an 8000 on some kind of dual rank setup. That requires a lot of extra tuning that I haven't like experimented with at all. So can't say. Oh, it's a pre-built motherboard. Oh well. That sucks. M16E should do around 3600. Yeah, I guess it could be a board issue, though that proc ODT is whack. So maybe maybe the resistances are just wrong. Or maybe they're right. I don't know. Like, I don't know how these ended up being what they are. Well, as far as I know, a lot of the like 16 gigabit DDR4 ICs, like they'll go up to 3600 pretty consistently. The timings just get horrendous. But 48 by 2 out of the question on 4 DIMM boards, I have no idea. Literally no idea on that front. What's a good app for testing memory stability? There's Karhu, there's TestMem5. TestMem5 is free. Prime 95 large FFTs. Ycruncher. Ycruncher VT3. A lot of people like using OCCT. I've never used it myself because I can't get over the gamer UI. Like that UI just annoys me so much. I just want to run a stress test. Get all this off my screen. I mean, Prime 95's UI is also horrendous, but at least it's utilitarian. Whereas like OCCTs is like annoying and like somebody actually put it like it, and it's not like the bare minimum UI necessary to get the application to work. It's like somebody actually tried to design a UI and I really don't like it. It's like the AMD driver UI. Why is it like why does everything need to take up so much space on my screen? It's not a tablet. I'm pretty sure OCCT actually changes the stress algorithm, doesn't it, over time? What's better between Karhu and TestMem5? I've not like tested if there's a difference between them. And historically, like the issue I have is like I am not sure. Like sometimes when you run one test after the other, you run tests one after the other, and one of them errors out. Is it because that test is heavier, or is it just because that was the last one you ran? right, is like a problem you run into. Now, if you start with settings that are unstable and you run a bunch of them at the same time, I don't do that very often though. But like the few times I've done that, they seem to like it's kind of random which one will catch what. Oh, there's also HCI mem test, but that one is like buying that one is a pain. Actually, I don't think you can buy that one at all anymore. So yeah, Prime 95 large FFTs is the issue I have with that one is you do need to run it for a long time because of the like cycling of the different FFT sizes. You can definitely buy HCI. Oh, is it available again? Because it used to be that you had to like send money in an envelope to buy it. Like I bought my HCI through PayPal, but like at some point the developer like disabled the PayPal option, and it's like, oh, using Cash App. Oh, you just have to contact him directly. Okay. Yeah, because he got annoyed that people were like pirating his stuff or something, or I don't know, maybe charging, like maybe chargebacks or something. I don't know. Anyway, Inepti Replica, your link is set to private, and I can't open it. So I'll go open somebody else's. Also, it's been almost 2 hours, so like if you want your timings rated, you've got like 9 minutes to get them in, assuming that I don't take forever to look at this. PayPal is brutal to sellers. Oh, well, I've never sold anything through. Well, that's not true, but like, I've never had like issue. Well, yeah, I've never had like had to deal with that. I set my TRAS to 36 at 8400 on Apex Encore, and it passed Testament 5 and 3 VT3, but games crash. Try run Prime 95 large FFTs on that then. I wonder why that would be though. I'm not. Wait, are you on 2x24? Oh, you're on. That is interesting. Like 2x24 does actually have like a much higher TR, like minimum TRC, but like, which on Intel you don't control that directly. You just change it by setting TRAS. I would try run some other tests on it then. But yeah, that sounds super. Maybe it's temperature related. If like it's specifically games that cause it to crash, so maybe like try like a GPU test at the same time as your memory test, and that might make it happen. Anyway, so this is 2x24 8000 on a 265K, and we got horrible timings. Oh my god, what is that right to right? This is like XMP, isn't it? Yeah, this is bad. It is 2x24. Okay, so TRD. Okay, you know what? Oh, where did it go? What did I open? Oh no. Go away. Yeah, this is bad. Now, I am not 100% certain. Like, I've not messed with Intel's fancy new memory controller. So I don't know for sure if this will work, but this is what I'd try. I don't even know if you have control over that one. I'd still set this to 65,000. No reason not to. I don't like. There's a chance that something's changed about the write to read timings in terms of how they work. So those I'm a bit worried about, but I'd try this. Like, yeah, I don't know. I've literally I don't have an Arrow Lake, and I don't plan to get one. I don't know. Maybe if the memory timing spreadsheet sells a bunch, then I'll buy an Arrow Lake. No, I won't. I'll buy a 9900X. Really want a dual CCD CPU that can like reliably run 8000 and doesn't do anything weird. Because I do actually have a second 9950X, but that one has other issues. So it's just like I didn't have to buy that one though. So that's at least it didn't cost me any money. But it's also like it still doesn't solve the issue of like I just want a dual CCD chip that doesn't have any yeah but when it comes to the memory on it. Actually, you know what? Don't change TCK. I don't know. Like that one might do weird stuff. Don't do that. And then these. Like the thing with WR pre is like it should be possible to set it like ridiculously low. Cast rate latency 36. What's 36 plus 48? Actually, we should also add 8s to that. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Funny how that works. So the way I came to that is very simple. See, so write to pre-charge is literally the delay from the write command to a pre-charge command. Because, so like for like TWR, which is what you have on AMD, and which is this over here, this is counted from the end of the write burst. The write burst is 8 cycles. The cast write latency, I'm pretty sure the preamble doesn't affect. Yeah, no, I don't think so. So cast write latency is 36. So what happens is you go cast write latency, and then your so you go 36 plus 8, which is the burst length, and then you do plus 48, which is TWR, and that's how I came to 92. Technically, with Hynix memory chips, you can often run TWR at like 16 or something, but 48 is like very safe. So that's why I went with 92 for this. Also, this is probably not much of a priority in terms of like setting that, but oops. Yeah. SG doesn't work, at least above 8400. Well, this is 8000. Just do 100 to be safe on WR. Max TREFI works at near 70C. Wait, are you at like a really high memory speed? Wait, so what's like a good WR timing then? If not 16, like 20? 24, okay. Man, what did Intel do to their memory controller? You used to be able to run that below read to read. No, I guess that explains why the motherboards default to 80. Oh, less than TWR 48 will not boot. Man, I don't want a freaking Arrow Lake. Like, on one hand, okay, it's like the memory controller is different, and I guess people are gonna send in their screenshots for a CPU that, like, I have zero interest in, or negative interest in. Like, if it was at least cheap, right? Because it's like, at least, if it, like, had the FX CPU factor of, like, yeah, it's garbage, but it's cheap. But it's like, it's not cheap. It's insanely expensive. The motherboards are, like this, I'm pretty sure this is like a $500 motherboard for your $600 CPU, and it's slow. And it's just like, man, spend $1,000 to get like on just garbage. Anyway, so yeah, that's my ideas for Arrow to the Knee Lake. Wait, no. What am I doing? So I'll grab a couple more links and then it'll be over. Apparently this one's private, or did I just copy it wrong? Nope, that one's definitely private. You gotta, like, if you're posting links, you have to make sure that they're public. Because otherwise I can't open them. Anyway, so what do we have here next? We have a 5800X3D on a B550F running 161919. Oh, this is probably a G-Skill Hynix kit of some kind, like CJR or something. 1619, yes, but, well, yeah, probably. So primaries look pretty Hynix. 4, 6, 16, 4, 12, 20, 500. Yeah, well, it might be Micron, but I'm pretty sure this is Hynix. And then we've got 4, 4, 16, 10, 18. This is dual rank, isn't it? This should be like 4, 4 and 6, 6 instead of 5, 4 and 7, 6. And that's like the only adjustment I would make to this. Other than maybe trying to run it at like 3666 or 3733, for which you would probably just need to loosen out the primary timings a bit. Like 3733, I would guess would work at like 18, 21, 21, 21. Something like that. Anyway, I'll grab another submission. And we've got a 3800 on a Z690, 4x8, 16, wait. Oh. Well, yeah, it's Micron F-die. I don't know why you'd think you could run low TRFC. 3800 boots with CL17. Yeah, so this is like a weirdness of the Intel memory controller. I'm pretty sure it's related to the cast write latency timing. And I've run into that on a few motherboards where like odd, like, I'm not sure if it was usually even cast latency or odd cast latency that was broken, but that is like a thing that happens on Intel, where like the motherboard will just refuse to work if you use like odd cast latency or even cast latency. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I even have a video where like I ran into that issue where I was like, I mean, I didn't fix it because it was like if I remember correctly, it was the difference between being able to run like 4015 and 4014. So I was like, ah, well, I'm running 15 then, I guess. And that was that. But yeah, that is a real thing that you can run into. So Anyway, 17, 23, 18, 23, 45. Yeah, looks very micron. 4, 6, 16, 550, 65,000 refresh interval. 11 TWR, TCKE 8, 8, 4, 11, 11, 8, 4, 37, 27. I would guess these are a bit looser than they need to be. But I'm not sure. I've never worked with Micron FDI. But like WTRS and like WTRs on Micron usually don't suck that badly. And then we have 8, 8, 12, 12, 8, 8, 10, 10. I don't know what to do about the dual rank timings on this. I'd probably try to tighten them a bit, but I'm not sure how much. GWR pre looks fine. Yeah, so this looks pretty good. And I wouldn't stress out about the TRFC because your refresh interval is 65,000 anyway. So this is less than 1% of your available clock cycles. The reason on Ryzen, like AM4, it's so important to run low TRFC is because you can't increase the refresh interval. So your available clock cycles are just getting like if you have 500 TRFC and your refresh interval is a 15,000, which is pretty common on Ryzen. Like, do I have some random AM4 setup open? No, this was AM5, 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 AM5 again. Oh, well. But, like, you'll have, like, 15,000 refresh interval, and then 500 clock cycles is, like, almost, like, it's like 3%. It's like 3% of your available clock cycles, which is not great. Whereas, like, 550 at 65,000 is less than 1%. Is it 3%? That seems kind of low. Anyway, another submission. Also, did my YouTube tab just crash again? It's a sign the stream wants to end itself. Oh, and we have an extremely generic looking Ryzen Hynix setup. Imagine that. Yep. 28, 36, 36, 28, 30, 58, 5, 8, 20, 4, 16, 48, 466, 42. That 466 could be lower. Also, what timings do I need to make 6200 work? You need more SoC voltage. Also, you probably need to loosen out TRP and... Like, I made a spreadsheet for this. Why? Where did I put it? Man, I should just keep, like, a easily accessible link to this. So... 6200, right? Yeah, I would probably try something like this right here. And you can like mix and match between the two columns. It doesn't really matter. But like mainly I think what you're going to run into is the primaries. Also, if you're wondering why the TRAS is so high, there are some kits where low TRAS is a major problem, which is why that's so high. This isn't necessary, like, this is like a compatibility thing, because this is supposed to be easy timings, right? So this is just, like, to eliminate, like, you already, like, with a kit like this, your TRAS is at 30, it'll probably work at 30 even at 6200, so there's no reason to copy that part, but, like, the rest of this is, like, just, yeah. Also, I wouldn't bother with changing the VDDP, in your case. Because that seems like a perfectly reasonable voltage for that. Right, which MDI? 16 gigabit or 24? Also, oh wait, right, the tab died. Also, if you would like this wonderful spreadsheet, you could, like, pause the live stream, or you can buy it on Patreon. Which will allow me to generate more spreadsheets. Because I need to buy hardware to generate this kind of data. Imagine that. I spent an awfully long time when making this spreadsheet and, like, publishing it to Patreon, looking at the, like, pricing options page. And thinking, like, trying to figure, like... And like on one hand, it's like I've generally just given like all of the information in this is free. Like this is literally stuff I've shown in other videos. There's like plenty of oh, there's also that like chart that I referenced throughout this from Reddit with all the different testing. Like you could just copy the timings from there. They'll probably work. Right? But yeah, so like I was looking at it and it was like to me it feels like an idiot tax. Like if you can't be bothered to just find the free information on the internet, this spreadsheet exists. It's $10. You don't have to subscribe. And yeah. And admittedly it's only for Hynix ADI for now. I will be making a 16 gigabit MDI version, probably. That one will be cheaper because MDI is like less common, I think. And then I might also, well, definitely going to be doing a 24 gigabit version, which will be the same price. Also, there's timings all the way up to like 8,000. And they're not 100% guaranteed to work, but like I think they should. Like this is basically, like my thought process was like people send in super chats. Where, you know, they'll send me like $5 or whatever. And then I basically just give them the timings that are in this spreadsheet anyway, except it requires that they show up to a live stream and that I see their super chat, which I don't think I've ever missed one. And then I have to spend time writing the same timings that I write every single time in Paint. And it's just like, this seems horribly inefficient. Right? So this is my optimization of this. Instead of sending me a super chat at like a very specific time on Monday, you can just buy the spreadsheet or copy it from the start of the video, because I did actually scroll through the entire thing because I didn't really think very hard about how I want to, like, it's free. That's like the other thing. So to me, it's like if you want to buy it, it's really more about like supporting the channel than like, yeah, like being some kind of like, also you could like, it's a PDF. You could just share it with your friends. Commit piracy. I'm not going to do anything about it. Or can you, there's a link in the video description. The other ones don't exist yet, but I will be making them. And if this is successful, I will keep making them. Because, yeah, and again, these aren't super tight. And, like, there's still, like, the thing is, like, I'm not happy about this. But the reality of it is like, ASRock and Gigabyte motherboards often run very, and, like, require very different VDDQ and VDDIO from, like, Asus and MSI. So, like, maybe at some point in the future, there will be a version 0.2 of this, which will also have, like, very specific voltage values for, like, every motherboard vendor. But as of right now, this is, like, the best I can do. And it's like, well, on these live streams, I also don't give voltages, especially not these two, usually. Like, I don't give specific numbers for these two unless I know, like, so... Yeah. And I wish, like, I really wish that wasn't a limit. Like, like I know there's like a time, like there was that timing calculator app for Ryzen, but I just think that's just so disingenuous because it's just like it's a lookup table, right? Like there's just like on certain motherboards you need to do X. It's not like, oh, there's this magic calculation. No, it's like this motherboard is designed to work with X, therefore you do X. And so you just need like a database of like all the different, like these are configurations that work and these are configurations that don't, probably. Because sometimes you get some weird memory kit that it's like, oh, this, right? Which is how that TRAS ended up at 40. Because like like my original easy Hynix timings was like, yeah, just smash that to 30. Because until that point, like until this year, basically, I hadn't encountered a memory kit where 30 didn't work. And then I got a KingBank 2x32 kit where it doesn't work at 30. It, like, at all. So 40 it is. Also, again, TRAS is, like, not super critical for performance. So I don't, like... That's my other thought process on this. But I also don't want this, like... Like, another issue I have with this is, like, technically... Like, I'm not sure if I want to add in like a bunch of instructions like, you might be able to run this lower, you might be able to run this lower. Because on the other hand, I do want this to be like easy to follow, right? Instead of like super complicated, which is why like the SoC voltage is like sky high for 6200 because um, I don't think there's any CPUs that for 6000 you would actually need more than 1.25. There are some absolute potatoes where you will need 1.25 for 6000 and then like yeah, you're not running 6200 ever. Um, but it's not like 6200 I think a lot of chips will do that at 1.2 or less. And then but you know, there is a bunch of chips that won't. So 1.3 it is because I can't know. And I want this to be idiot proof to the best of my ability because if you're paying for it and it doesn't work, that feels like a ripoff. Right? I get very salty when I buy a memory kit and then it doesn't work. When the XMP doesn't work. So I don't want to, you know, have a spreadsheet that is like runs into that same problem. Anyway, so you include dual rank timings, yeah, but they're a little bit on the loose side. Also, if I update this, the way I'll update it is I will put a new attachment on the existing post. You won't have to buy it again because that's stupid. Unless I like drastically change the content. Like if I end up doing it where it's for every single like it starts getting specific for each motherboard vendor, then it might get a re-release at the same price. But if it's just like I decide like, hey, you can run lower dual rank timings than what's currently in there, because what's currently in there is just what I've been using so far, but I've seen some people manage lower settings, but I haven't like tested if those lower settings, like how consistent is it that works. Because if it's not very common for it to work, then that's a problem. So yeah, it is way like it is tighter than the auto timings because the auto dual rank timings are like 11-11 or something, which is horrible. So what I have in there right now is 6688. Um, will you consider making new designs for the zip hoodies? There is a like hoodie design idea I had like a year ago that never got finished. Um, I've just not been really like I don't. So yeah, the merch side of things is like I'm not sure about how like I've been having some issues with Spring on there's never been like they've like taken my money, but it has been quite a few times that like I request a payout. And I think this is because of how like at some point I had to change some email and it just takes forever. And so that's been really annoying me. And also um I've not been thrilled with their like the print options for the hoodies, especially the zip up ones, where it's like they can't really print very much on the front of them. Um, and so yeah, I don't know, but I also don't want to deal with like merch stuff. Um, because I like testing hardware. I do like kind of like the designing art part of it, but I don't like dealing with the like, hey, selling it. Um, so yeah. I have been toying with the idea of maybe doing another similar like the pentagram memory overclocking shirt. I've been thinking of doing a new one for DDR5, maybe specifically for Ryzen, because I've had some ideas where with like the FCLK and the like all of the like structures where instead of like because the original one for DDR4 is just timings, I was thinking like doing one where it's like similar style but for the like physical layout of how everything connects. Um, but I haven't finished thinking that through yet. Um, and then it's like, yeah, like I'm busy. I'd rather like just test RAM. It's like currently, like basically right now with 9000 series, it's just like I want to test boards and I want to test RAM. And everything else is like I don't have the mental bandwidth to deal with that. So, yeah, like Eventually I'll get bored of testing RAM and then I might spend some time designing merch again or something. I don't know. That's just, I'm a mess. Does VSOC and VDGG affect, VSOC doesn't only affect UCLK, but that's the main thing it affects. It also affects the Infinity Fabric. Like on some CPUs, you'll find, especially in 2-to-1 mode, that like you might have to run high SoC just to run high FCLK. And okay, not high, but like higher SoC. Because what I consider high is like 1.2 and up. But I did run into, I think, when I was testing like the super low SoC 2-to-1 mode setup on the Crosshair, which was 7800. I think at one point I briefly tried like 2200 FCLK or something, and it didn't even want to post at 0.9 SoC. So at that point, it's like, okay, I think that would have needed like 1.1, 1.5, 1.15 SoC or something to work. But usually the main reason you run, like in 1-to-1 mode, the main reason you mess with SoC voltage is to get the UCLK to where you want it. But it does also affect FCLK. Like too much SoC voltage will sometimes cause like you can't run as much FCLK. The varies by CPU. Like some can tolerate like 1.3 and it's fine at 2200 or even higher FCLK. But a lot, like I've also had chips where like, yeah, you run 1.3 SoC and 2200 isn't going to be stable ever. Actually, it's probably not even going to be, like, it's going to be super unstable. Yeah, anyway, a few people apparently really struggle with reading basic instructions. But hey, I'll take their submissions anyway. Oh, well, that was worth it, because this one's at least kind of different from the usual Ryzen spam, and I'm apparently very bad at copy pasting. And I feel like this stream was just a big advertisement for my stupid spreadsheet. I feel bad about that. Then again, people like people watch these streams, and it's not like, you know, like you can leave if you want to. Anyway, so what is this? 7600, 36, 46, 46, 58. You could run lower TRP. I would actually like really like if you're in a, sometimes you'll run into a situation where you're like trading TRAS and TRP. It is always better to run less TRP because TRAS is very specifically for memory controller opens a row and then memory controller wants to close that row like as soon as possible, which is kind of rare as an actual scenario, like a scenario. Like I think it's mainly if there's like speculative row, like I haven't confirmed if this is a thing, but I suspect strongly that Intel and AMD now have speculative row open, where they will just open a memory row before they even know if they want to read from it, right? Just like as a guess. And in that scenario, if you open the row and then you immediately want to close it, it's going to hit TRAS, which is also why I suspect that with like on DDR4, AMD memory controller, you couldn't really, like, if you set your TRC correctly, you couldn't destabilize the memory with TRAS. It was impossible, because I'm pretty sure that memory controller would never ever run into a scenario where it goes activate straight into a pre-charge. Like, that just wouldn't happen, because that doesn't make sense, right? Like, why would you send an activate and then not read anything and then pre-charge? Or, like, not, you would, like, act, read, or write, and then pre-charge, right? That makes sense. Like, you open the row, you do something with it, and then you close it. But if you have a speculative row open, then you would just open it and then go like, wait a minute, I changed my mind, close it. And then TRAS suddenly becomes relevant, even because the other timings won't like drag, like won't delay the close. And so, yeah, so with DDR5, you can run into situations where, like, as you lower TRAS, it'll, like, force you to raise TRP, because after TRP, you have, like, the second activate, right? So you have, like, activate to activate, which is TRC. But you can close a row anytime, right? Like, you can close a row after 1 read operation, after 0 read operations, after 100 read operations. You can decide to close the row. And so anytime you send a pre-charge, low TRP is helping. Whereas TRAS only helps if you go activate, pre-charge, right? So, yeah, so like in any, like with ADI, you should always prioritize low TRP. Unless this is 2x24, in which case I am being stupid. Please don't be 2x24. I mean, you can still lower it, but you can't lower it that much. Oh, it is 2x24. Well, that didn't help. I mean, you could still run like 44, 42. Just like, if this was 8i, you could probably run 36 and 36 on both. But anyway, so like you could save a little bit of time on TRP. Little bit. Not a lot. But anyway, 10, 8, that's good. 608, cool. 65,000, cool. 15, 12, 32, 8, 34, cool. You can run lower cast write latency. Like a lot lower. It doesn't really make a huge difference to performance because write operations aren't generally that important, but like, yeah, you can run that one way down. 16, 8, 18, 18, 16, 8, 60, 44. Yep, that all looks good. And at 1.45. Yeah. I see nothing to complain about. There was that other person who couldn't follow basic instructions. Okay, let's take a look at that one too. So we've got a 5600 running 3866 on single rank Micron eDie, 8 gigabit, 15, 8, 20, 13, 21, 58, 44, 16, 36. Man, Micron does low WTRs. Especially WTRL. Like, that is really, really low. GWR 12, 5, yeah, that TRFC is very Micron. 4, 4, 14, 6, 9. Well, they don't know how to follow instructions, but they do know how to set memory timings, so that's nice. Minus 30 all core, plus 25. No errors in 12 hours of test mem 5. Have this OC set up since 2022, and it's good. Like, this is basically the peak of what you can do with a Micron setup. Wait, do we have the 0 errors? No, we don't. And it's also 54 seconds, but that's cool. Yeah, so this is actually like a really, like this is about as good as it's going to get for Micron, unless you get really lucky with a CPU that runs like 4,000 or, well, no, the memory speed is not the issue. The issue is getting the FCLK to be stable at that point, right? But so yeah, unless you get lucky with a chip that runs like 2000 FCLK with Micron, this is basically as good as it's going to get. I mean, sometimes you can find sticks that do lower TRCD-RD than this, but that's just luck. Like that's very much just a luck thing. And actually, Crucial was binning their Micron eDie pretty hard for TRCD because they had like a 3618 TRCD bin. Whereas like say Corsair's 3600 for Micron was like 16. Actually, I don't think they even did a 16 bin. I think they did like a 3600 1822. So yeah, that is one thing I noticed because I have a whole bunch of Crucial Ballistics DDR4. The 3200 kits are actually pretty consistently weaker on TRCD than the 3600 and higher kits because that was one thing that Crucial really was binning for. So yeah, but this looks good. Also, that TRP is just slammed. Unfortunate. Well, yeah. See, this is a perfect example of that. The like TRP at 13, TRAS at 21, TRC at 58. If you did this with the well, if you tried to do this on Intel, like 13 TRP 21 TRAS with Micron, it would just crash because you can't directly control the TRC value. So on Intel, your TRC would end up being 13 plus 21, which is 34. And that is not okay for Micron. Like, it will absolutely not work. But because the AMD memory controller for DDR4 does have that separate TRC setting, you can set TRAS to just like 21 and it just never uses it. Whereas on DDR5, I think if you tried the same thing, it would actually crash, even if your TRC is set correctly, if you set TRAS too low. And you can also do the opposite where you set like TRC, like on DDR4, you can set TRC really low and TRAS really high on the AMD memory controller again. And it's fine. But on AM5, if you set TRC like way below TRAS, and I actually don't know how this is even possible, but like if you set TRC super low, that'll actually also crash because there's some like weirdness going on with row activations on the DDR5 memory controllers. Um, so yeah. Um, and Intel also has that. Well, Intel doesn't give you a TRC setting, so you can't really test it like that. But anyway, timings look good. Um, I got stupid RAM. 8400 stable as 8000 and 7800 doesn't post at all. Wait, what? What system? Like what motherboard? Yeah, no, on AM5 you can't floor TRAS and use TRC. Well, yeah, no, not really. Oh, the one with the Patriot RAM on the B650EI. I don't remember any of it at this point. I'm sorry. My like when I'm doing these memory timing video RAM timing reacts, like I remember trends. Like if there's something that shows up a lot, I'll remember what that as in timings. I won't remember motherboards. I won't remember CPUs. Um yeah, the hidden purpose of these is to actually steal people's memory timings. Well, no, it's like the way I see it is like I'm getting like just more information to like reaffirm my expectations, I guess. So yeah, I'm totally stealing people's memory timings. And then I sell them on Patreon for $10. Don't you dare steal my timings I got from you. The thing is, you validated them for me, right? Like I'm basically uh offshoring the validation process, right? Instead of having to test my memory timings myself, I get other people to do it for me, and then they pay me to rate them. um, can I post my link? I couldn't figure it out before. Sure. If you spent, I don't know how long you spent figuring it out, but like, whatever. What time is it? Oh, it's still 10:39, so I might not end the stream just yet. Man, you're an INTP and you can't read basic instructions? Disappointed. Now this better be good. Well, it could be worse. I did just wake up. How much bigger do I need to make this text for it to be visible? Thanks for the membership, I guess. Unfortunately, memberships don't currently have many. I wonder if there's some way I could share the spreadsheet through YouTube memberships, because that like this was one thing that really bugged me. Like YouTube's been like pushing me about like, oh, you should have memberships, and then I go to set it up and they're like, oh, you need to provide all these benefits, and it's just like, I don't want to sell shit to people. Anyway, what just supporting. Okay, cool. Just like I hope you're aware that like the membership benefits for this channel are basically you get some emojis. And they're extremely obscure and won't be understood anywhere else, except maybe the blue screen one. And I don't remember what the shortcuts for those emojis are. Oh, wait, it gives them to me. Oh, cool. Yeah, you get access to these. Yeah. If you, like, I'm not even sure if people know why, like, what the number ones are supposed to be. Like, I feel like if you watch my content enough, you should be able to know why there's a 55 and a 15. Though the 55 thing is more of a DDR4 era thing than... How often do you do these mem timing streams? They've been every Monday. Freaking memory train. Yeah, 15 is AM5 memory training, and 55 is Intel DDR4 memory training. Actually, even on DDR5 you get it, it's just less common. And now that I've opened the emoji options, I don't know how to close the... Oh, okay, that fixes that. That wasn't supposed to be a membership pitch. I don't even know what the membership price is. I hope you're not getting ripped off. No, it's fine. Anyway, I'll take a look at these timings. So we have 16, 8, 20, 20. This is probably Micron because that's like a Corsair 18. Oh wait, no, this is Hynix. Yeah, this is Hynix because that is way too low to be Micron. 8, yeah, so 16, 8, 20, 20, 26. Oh no, yeah, no, that's Hynix, so that's not gonna work. 26, 52. Okay, whatever. 4, 4, 16, 4, 8, 10, 2, 2, 16, 6, 6, 4, 4, 6, 6. I mean, this isn't dual rank, so those don't actually matter, but this looks fine. 299 a month. Okay. Well, I guess that should be fair then. It is entirely optional, so it's not like you're losing out on content or something. Because that's one thing that is like, yeah, like I never, I never want to make information like exclusively paywalled. Because the thing is, like my view on it is like if more people get into overclocking due to good information on overclocking, then maybe those people will also like, you know, eventually help figure out stuff too. Right? Like I know that a lot of people who show up on my channel are basically I need memory timings because my Call of Duty FPS isn't high enough, so I get owned by 13-year-olds. But doesn't YouTube take half of it? I don't think it's half, but it's a lot. Patreon is way more efficient. But Patreon doesn't have like a emoji integration, so yeah. I mean, I like the thing is I see it like if you're an entertainment channel, right? Like if you just sell like brain dead entertainment, that's fine. I don't really see a problem with that. But like gatekeeping information, especially information that I got a lot of what I know about overclocking and well, through a lot of my own testing, but some of it also through like free forums and free discords and like so to me it seems wrong to like gatekeep information that I only got to this point where I can like gather this information, if you will. It's not really generating it, right? Like it's just like memory timings are basically just sit there and test stuff. Like I only got to this point because of all the free resources that came before me, right? So pulling up the ladder behind you is kind of a dick move. Do you have a Discord? Maybe. Parameters do. So the thing is, like, the memory timings don't really interact with each other. You like 24H2? I haven't tried 24H2. Apex or Apex Encore or Lightning with. I think the ITX Lightning is. From what I've seen, other people seem to like. I haven't tested the ITX Lightning myself, but a lot of people seem to like that board, and even people that like I highly respect their opinion on the matter like that board a lot more than they like the Apexes. So probably the Lightning. And the Lightning's also way cheaper, isn't it? So if it doesn't work for you, at least it wasn't super expensive. Or can I get baseline 6400 timings? Wait, what do you mean? Man, am I going to have to add like a compatibility set? I should probably add like a compatibility set to the spreadsheet. Because right now the primaries in there are like, I would expect this to work on most kits, but I'm not certain it would work on all kits. By which I mean, like you just scroll through this, then you get to 6400, and basically my main concern is this and this. There are some memory sticks that won't do that. They'll need like 40, and then this will need like 38. For Hynix 8i, unless you're on 24. Oh, you're on 2x24. Yeah, I haven't made a 2x24 version. I'll try to get that out this week. I do have 2x48 at 6400, and you can just rip the timings out of that, and that'll work. Actually, there should be a post of that on Patreon as well. I don't know if you're on the Patreon, but it might be free. I don't know. Is it on Patreon? Oh, it isn't. Oh, man, I hate myself. Yep, it's not there because I used to do this thing where I'd copy all the timings out of the videos into text versions and put them on Patreon. And then at some point I stopped doing that. And so, and like, I've done it for a couple videos recently, but it's not consistent. It's kind of random, which is another reason why I'm like, I'll just make these damn spreadsheets because then I don't have to think about it. It'll be in a spreadsheet at some point, just not yet. But anyway, I'll try to pull up the 2x48 video because that one was relatively recent. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you can, like, that should just work at 2x24. Oh, wait, that's also 38. Yeah, see, this is the, like, there's a chance you might get a kit that just won't do 38 TRCD. I really should, I guess, make, like, a compatibility primary timings option in the spreadsheet. The thing is, I I want the spreadsheet to be like simple and not like, you know, because the extreme version of it would have been like, oh yeah, there's just like at one point I was experimenting with this, or not experimenting, but like thinking about this idea of like I would have like for each timing, there would be like all the different increments that I think are worth trying. Like what I would expect to work depending on how lucky you got. But that would just be stupid because then you'd have like TRCD at 6400. If you get really lucky, there are sticks out there that'll do like 36, right? And if you get really unlucky, there are sticks that'll stop at like 40. And so you'd have like, okay, 36, like what are you, so the spreadsheet would then have like TRCD, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. That to me is kind of like, well, I don't like it. And I was thinking like maybe I could just put like a range, but then it's like, no, this is supposed to be easy. Like I want this to like ideally just boot up when people copy the settings. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be stable, but I at least don't want them to immediately have to clear CMOS. I should have probably not set the TRP so low. But yeah, is 8 hours Prime 95 and Karhu stable enough? Like 8 hours combined or 8 hours of each? 8 hours of each, yes. 8 hours together, no. Especially Prime 95, I don't think 4 hours is long enough. There might be some, like, well, it also depends. Like, there's some people who just 8 hours each, yeah, definitely. I'd completely trust that. Tai Chi Light review coming soon. Ugh. It's like, so the thing that's been delaying me taking the Tomahawk off my desk is I haven't yet finished taking the oscilloscope measurements for it. Because I need to put the 7950X back in to take the measurements, and then it's like, and then I'll have like some measurements, but it won't immediately translate into a video, I guess, and it's just like, so the Tai Chi Light has been like, man, I don't know. I guess I should probably do something with the Tai Chi Light soon, though. The thing is, like, actually, I really want to measure the Tai Chi Light with the oscilloscope, so I'd like to at least have some reference points. Because, like, the whole reason I bought that board is because of the VRM on it, right? So it's like, oh, and then if I, like, so for me, it's like, oh, I'll put it on the test bench, but then I won't measure it, and I'll just do memory overclocking, and then I'll have to go back to it to measure it, and it's just like, well, this seems kind of stupid and inefficient. Have you tried 7800 on the HDV? Not yet, and that's actually the thing that I'm more interested in right now, is like trying 8000 on the HDV with 9000 series. Because it should work. Like, I've seen people do 8000 with 7000 on the HDV, but I've never managed it. Like, for me, 7800 on that board was a massive struggle. And there's somebody, like, in the community who has been kind of getting on my nerves with their incredibly boneheaded approach to tuning memory tuning on to tuning RAM on their B650M HDV. And watching that has been like, man, I need to make a video because I'm going to die if I have to read any more of this. But, like, I haven't tried it yet. So, yeah. Yeah, I know people, like, I know over 8000 is possible on the HDV, but a lot of that's been with the, like, a lot above 8000 is, like, APUs usually. But even the CPUs can do, like, 8000 plus. I've seen some claims that HDV can't do 6000. Okay, mine can definitely do 6000. Mine can do 7600 easy, but above 7600 it gets flaky as hell. But I think with the latest BIOSes, because it feels like AMD's really pushed hard to get 8000 a lot more consistent now. With Ryzen 9000 series. So it's specific to 9000 series, but like there's like a big difference in how the motherboards are approaching like termination and drive strength now. So I don't know if that's like if it's hit ASRock yet, but like on Asus, it's like a very noticeable difference between like the early BIOSes and the later BIOSes and how the terminations and stuff are setting. And also, I finally have a 9000 series chip where it's like, oh, it runs 8000 on 4 dimmers, right? Like I have the 9700X, and that runs great for 8000. So I'm hoping like maybe my struggles with the HDV was just the CPUs being a little bit weak or something, or the memory sticks being a bit weak. Because like that's the really annoying thing with memory overclocking, right? Is when you have 3 random parts, actually 4, because the BIOS, you can kind of consider the BIOS another part, right? Like you'll take 4 random parts, you put them together, and then it doesn't work, and you don't know why. But now I have like a 9700X that does 8000 really consistently. Like it does 8000 a lot. Like it's just like I feel kind of bad about how many videos it's been in now, and I have a G-Skill 8000 Expo kit that definitely does 8000. I have another like Hynix A-die kit that also does 8000, and I have one more A-die kit that does 8000. So I have 3 different A-die kits which definitely do 8000. I have a CPU that definitely does 8000 because I've run those 3 different kits on that one CPU. And that CPU does 8000 on like 2 different motherboards at actually more like 3. Yeah, 3, because I've run it on the ITX, the Crosshair, and the Tomahawk. So it's like, now I have high confidence that this CPU definitely does 8000. I have memory kits that definitely do 8000. So we can now stick it into the motherboard where I don't know for sure if the board can do 8000. And if it doesn't do 8000 now, it's the motherboard's fault. Right? But if you take 4 random parts where it's like, well, technically it's like an Expo kit with a CPU that might do 8, because let's say the Expo memory kit, but it could be defective, right? That's like the really annoying thing when you buy the really high speed memory kits is like, well, maybe it's just dead on arrival, right? But like if you just take motherboard, memory kit, CPU, BIOS, right? And you have these 4 different variables where it's like the BIOS could be trashed, the memory kit could be broken, the motherboard might be trash, the CPU could be trash. And then you try to run DDR5 8000 and it doesn't work, and it's just like, well, why? Who knows? So yeah, but now I have like at least like it doesn't eliminate the motherboard BIOS issue, but I do have a CPU and several memory kits that I know for certain can do 8000. Actually, it's like 5 memory kits, right? Because there's also the 24 gig DIMMs that I tried. Actually, no, 4, because I haven't checked the Corsair kit. But so I have all this hardware. So now when I test the HDV, I won't be sitting there like, well, I don't know why it doesn't work. Because if it doesn't work now, then I blame the motherboard. I still won't know why. Well, no, because at this point, it's just like, I guess I got unlucky with the motherboard. And that's another thing is like, I would like to, because I've heard of people like the whole like, oh, there might be like PCB quality variants with motherboards. I would like to maybe buy another HDV, maybe just to see. Because if it turns out this one sucks and then I buy another one and it doesn't suck, that would be really interesting. And, sort of prove the whole like, yeah, you can get unlucky on the motherboard PCB, which sucks, but oh well. At memory speeds this high, it's just like RAM was never meant to do DDR5 was never meant to do 8000. But yeah. Did I get to be on the upcoming list? NR0. Wait, you're the one who I was like, yeah, you can post, right? And then wait, what? Did you never make a submission? Or did I miss it? Anyway, what time is it? Because these streams always get out of control. It's 11. I kind of want to go shopping. And they close at 12. So we got like 30 minutes max. 3250 doesn't boot at all. What SoC voltage are you at? 3250, that's 6500. One day 8000 will not be a problem. Yeah, definitely. Like, the memory controllers are getting better. And the motherboards are getting better. Unfortunately, they're also getting more expensive. Oh, you're at 1.3. Yeah, if it just doesn't boot, I mean, you could try loosen the primary timings from like, because I'm assuming you're at like, yeah, if you're at like 38, you could try like 39 TRCD. And then maybe also loosen read to read SCL. Because sometimes, like, especially when you're pushing the limits of 1-to-1 mode, read to read SCL sometimes like hits a limit pretty quickly. Oh, and the TRFC, like, set it to like 600 for compatibility. And well, actually, yeah, there's like a few things that I'd try loosen out. I'd need to do more testing. I need to eat. That's why I need to go shopping. I need to buy food. Can't make streams if I'm dead from starvation. um Usually get Asus Hero. Why would you even buy a Z890 motherboard? Like, if you have a 14900K or something, it's basically as good or better. Like, depending on what you're doing, a 14900K is just better than a 285. I'm not like hungry or anything, but like I haven't bought anything to eat today, so like I've eaten, but like I haven't bought anything like a yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. Um, oh, you blind ordered Arrow Lake. Buy an OC formula then. Man, this is such a frustration for me is like looking at the Z890 motherboard lineup. I'm so angry. How does the floppiest of floppy Intel CPUs have so many cool motherboards? And then on AM5, it's like, yeah, we canceled the gene. We don't make it anymore. It's like, Asus, why? Um, right, so we're going to sort by price. And it's like, okay, so this is obviously stupid. But you have like the Unify X. You have the Apex. You have the OC formula. Wait, did the price go up on that? Because that wasn't that ridiculously priced. Yeah, the Hero's dumb, though. I want, like, man. I'm so annoyed. So annoyed. Because it's like, man, this board is, like, really cool. ASRock has the worst motherboard timing. You know what other OC formula they made? The last time they made an OC formula was the Z590 OC formula for 11th gen. It's like you can basically predict how bad an Intel CPU is on whether or not ASRock is going to sell an OC formula for it. So, like, the one upside to this board is because 11th gen was such a flop, eventually I managed to pick one of these up. Because it launched at, like, a pretty high price, if I remember correctly, but I managed to get one of these for, I think, under £200. Off a Newegg. Because they just had a bunch of them left over. Because, yeah, nobody wants your high-end Z590 motherboard for 11th gen. So I have one, and I haven't gotten around to doing anything with it. But, like, yeah, cool motherboard. So I guess I might do, like, I do eventually want to do stuff with it. Like, I don't just hoard hardware to hoard hardware. Like, right? Like, once I get bored of AM5, I might end up messing with Z590, though more realistically, I might end up messing with some ancient irrelevant GPU, because ancient irrelevant GPUs are less pain to set up than Intel motherboards. So I'm kind of assuming that the same will happen to this, is like in a year or two, this thing will be like $200 on discount, and then I'll buy it. So that'll be fun. But man, what unfortunate timing for ASRock. But yeah, the Asus motherboard prices for Z890 are just ludicrous. And MSI with the Unify X. Like $700 is insane. What's crazy to me is that like Z890 seems to have like even more power delivery than Z790, but Arrow like isn't that power hungry. Gigabyte boards are bad? Depends. Sometimes Gigabyte makes good boards, and sometimes they make really, really, really bad boards. It's kind of random. So without testing for Z890, I just do not know. I've actually, like, for AM5, I quite like Gigabyte's boards. But for Intel, it's kind of all over the place. Like, their Z690s and their Z790 is kind of eh. The refresh boards are better. I don't know. It depends. Well, actually, on Intel, you still don't have TRC-DWR control, which is dumb. Like, Gigabyte has a very, like... They have a very, like, what's funny is they do have an in-house overclocker who's actually very good. But as far as the actual, like, retail motherboard experience goes, it's like, if the default spec isn't good, Gigabyte isn't really going to do anything about it. Right? So, like, with, so you get a lot of, like, nitpicky issues, in my experience, where, like, say, for AM5, the load line calibration on the Gigabyte motherboards is just not great. It's not horrible, and it doesn't affect stock operation, because it's in spec, but because the spec is so loosey-goosey, Gigabyte is also loosey-goosey with it. And then with like LGA 1700, you can't configure TRC-DWR. There's really no reason for why you can't do that. You can do it on MSI boards, you can do it on Asus boards, but you can't do it on Gigabyte. Another funny one is you can't set TRP and TRCD to two different numbers. Again, not a huge deal, doesn't affect performance that much, but it's just like, you can do it on MSI, you can do it on ASRock, you can do it on Asus, but you can't do it on Gigabyte. Why? Because Gigabyte for, like, from Z390, actually, it's not even Z390, from, like, Z170 onwards, TRP and TRCD were the same thing. Like, the register that sets those two timing parameters was the same register. So you couldn't have two different values for them, right? And Gigabyte just never got the memo that that was changed with 11th gen. So you still can't set TRCD and TRP separately, even though they've been separate since 11th gen. And it's just like, it's not a big deal, right? TRP isn't that important, but like, it's been several years now. Why are they still coupled? So, yeah, and then hardware-wise, like, Gigabyte will often splurge on, like, power delivery components and capacitors and stuff, but again, you run into that problem of, like, if it's not configured properly by the original, like, the manufacturer, Gigabyte probably won't do anything about it. Which is why, like, the AM5 voltage, like, I'm not very impressed with Gigabyte's LLC control settings on AM5 or AM4, because they're just, I mean, I kind of want to retest the AM4 measurements because they were so bad. Like, so freaking bad. Like, so just, but, like Gigabyte, like they just have a very like, well, it works, doesn't it, approach to a lot of things, and it's just like, yeah, it's not great. Like, so like, and you also end up with things like when I was testing Z690 Gigabyte motherboards for voltage regulation, they all have the same voltage regulation. From the cheapest one to the most expensive one that I tested, they all have the same voltage regulation. Why? Because they probably use the exact same VRM firmware configuration. As in like there's more, well, there's obviously like configuration for how many phases there are, but the controllers will have like a I think the technical term is compensation loop, or like the PID control, and then there's like other like control schemes available on top of that to like try improve transient response. I don't believe Gigabyte has ever bothered to adjust any of those beyond what they get from the manufacturer directly from the factory. Um, like they tune that VRM controller once and then they just copy paste it. If they even tune it once, because I kind of suspect that like with Intersil or Infineon, like the default configuration that they give them is already like good enough. And then Gigabyte just leaves it at that. And it's just like, and so if the default configuration isn't amazing for overclocking, well, you're just kind of screwed a bit. They don't tune, yeah. So you don't get any like, and the side effect of that is also like Gigabyte will often not have the best voltage regulation, right? Like it'll be good, but like Asus, when like Asus really tries with their VRM, like it's sometimes in the wrong direction, right? Like minimizing manufacturing cost. He's just very good at that. It's like just how like with like the best example of that was like the Z390 Hero, where it's like, well, technically we can get away with like 8 power stages and a 4-phase controller, and like the funny thing is like the voltage regulation on that VRM is very good, but it also runs really hot, right? So like Asus will like there was extra, you know, design consideration put into like making sure that the CPU's like voltage regulation is good, but making sure that the VRM like can handle a 300 watt load, less of a concern. Whereas Gigabyte has like on Z390 specifically, it's the opposite way, where Gigabyte runs lower temperatures, but the voltage regulation is worse by a couple millivolts, which isn't a huge deal, but it's like that's the kind of difference. But then on like AM4, Gigabyte's voltage regulation is absolutely horrible. Like it's so bad that like I really do want to retest that at some point, because it's so bad it's like hard to believe the results. But at the same time, like I also remember like there was a board at launch for AM4 when Gigabyte flew me out to Taiwan that I tested for them. And when I was testing it, I like straight up told them like, look, this is broken. Which they were not very impressed with my opinion on the power delivery on that board. But it was so, like, the other boards, it was, like, debatable as to whether or not it was an actual issue. But this one board was, like, horrible. Like, absolutely horrendous. Like, this is like, one of the worst things I've ever measured ever. And it ran its stock to my complete, like, disbelief. And then they spent some time like actually tuning it so that it doesn't suck so badly. And it's just like, why did you even fly me out to measure this? Like I used your oscilloscope to measure your motherboard. Why am I here? Can't you do this yourself? I don't know how to tune the controller. I'm not actually an electronics engineer. Like, you know, I don't know what to do with the control loop of the VRM. I wish I did. But unfortunately, control loops require like math that goes kind of over my idiot brain. And so like and so with Gigabyte, it's like sometimes they make some really good hardware, sometimes they make some terrible hardware. Like I have certain Gigabyte boards. Like the funny thing is for AM5, their memory stability is really good in my experience. Like I've had the least issues with memory tuning on Gigabyte boards. Now, admittedly, it's a bit weird because they have different, like, they're the one manufacturer where it's like, oh yeah, we're like really low VDDIO, really low VDDQ. ASRock also kind of does that. But you know, like the memory topology that they designed, it works. It works really well. But then you also have like, yeah, but I don't like how the VRM LLC is set up, especially on some of their boards. It's like not great. And the funny thing is with X870 from Gigabyte, I'm kind of worried that and this has been like stalling me out on making a video for a while because I don't have the measurements to back this up, but I measured this thing, and I still have this board because I do want to retest it now that I have the like better oscilloscope set up with the 7950X. So I measured this board. This is an Infineon VRM. This is like the same VRM controller that Asus uses, that Asus gets absolutely incredible voltage regulation out of. On this board, it's horrible. It's not so bad that like it doesn't affect PBO. It doesn't affect stock operation at all because the stock spec for load line on AM5 is very shallow, right? Like AMD doesn't expect some miracle, like AMD doesn't require a very high V-droop load line. So the fact that like the default voltage regulation is kind of like, it makes sense why it's the way it is at stock, but you can't tune it to be better. Because the max V-droop you can program on this motherboard is like 50 millivolts at 200 amps, which is nothing. And I haven't really, like, I kind of want to do more testing on this, but I'm pretty sure this board actually limits max all-core overclocks slightly because of that voltage regulation being as bad as it is. And this is an Infineon controller. Now, the other boards that Gigabyte has for X670, those use Renesas. At least, like, well, there's some boards that are based on the Elite, like the Gaming X and those are on Infineon. Actually, the later revisions might be on Richtech. And the funny thing is, like, Richtech is usually, like, the budget cheapo controller option, but in Gigabyte's hands, that Richtech controller might actually work better. Because it's just, like, that's Gigabyte for you. It's just, like, they'll happily spend... like they'll happily use the high-end power stages and the high-end controller, and they just won't bother to like fine-tune anything. But anyway, so I wasn't very impressed with that motherboard. Now with X870, the X870E Elite is on a Richtech controller, but the master is definitely Infineon. In fact, the Master's VRM configuration looks suspiciously similar to the Elite, the old Elite, in terms of like how many power stages there are and what the controller is. And actually, it is the same controller. So there's like a non-zero chance that this board with a Richtech controller has better voltage regulation than this thing, because Gigabyte probably uses the same control loop that they used on this board with the same load line tuning that they used on this board, and it's just like, man, why are they like this? And the thing is, like, for stock operation, it really doesn't seem to matter at all. Like, I've never run into issues with it. In fact, the incredibly aggressive default load line helps helps PBO performance, which is kind of funny, but it works on the same principle as like NVIDIA GPUs, where it's like, yeah, we don't have V-droop, so the voltage just flings itself up and down based on what the GPU is doing, and the GPU just kind of has to deal with it. So like Ryzen CPUs have the same approach to power delivery, where it's like, yeah, there's like, it's not literally like NVIDIA where there's literally no V-droop on the new ones. There's some V-droop. It's minimal. And so the CPU still just kind of has to deal with the fact that the voltage just flings itself up and down. Up is not a problem. Down is, but the CPU deals with that. But the issue is like, if you switch to static overclocking, the massive amounts of undershoot actually become a major problem for stability, because the clock stretching gets disabled when you set static core ratios. At least it did on 7000 series. 9000 series might have changed that. Actually, maybe AMD changed that over time. I don't know, like they might have changed that in general. So I do need to do more testing on that. But there's a decent chance that this would actually be worse for static all-core overclocks than this. Or the past X670 boards. Which is just like... And I've been stuck on like I wanted to do a video about like my thoughts on the Gigabyte AM5 lineup, but I don't want to accuse this motherboard of having an issue that I haven't confirmed. I would be very unsurprised if this had the exact same voltage regulation that this does, which would be very disappointing. But yeah, so that's Gigabyte for you. It's just like, it's just... And, yeah, and so I've been stuck on that, because, like, I don't... Like, maybe it's fine, and maybe I'm, like, blowing it out of proportion, that, like, you can't, you know... Because on Asus boards, you can set the load line so that there's basically no undershoot. On MSI boards, you can't really do it, but you can get pretty close. But on this board, you just can't. There just isn't a V-droop setting high enough to get this board to stop undershooting the core voltage. And so it's like, well, that, you know, if you have, like, if this... And the thing is, like, again, if you're on PBO, this literally doesn't matter. In fact, on PBO, if you max out the LLC, it makes the CPU slightly faster. But it's just... Yeah. And also another issue is, like, I'm probably the only person who cares about this that much, which is why Gigabyte. Like, I probably care more about voltage regulation than Gigabyte's own power delivery team. I fully believe that Asus actually, like, measures the voltage regulation performance of their motherboards and, like, tries to improve it. MSI maybe, because MSI's VRM controllers sometimes have weird issues, which to me is like, okay, they tried to do something and they maybe didn't finish it. But Gigabyte motherboards, it's just like, man, they didn't. They just didn't. They're like, whatever they got from Infineon is whatever they slapped on the board, and if it works, then that's great, and if it doesn't, then oh boy. Or like whatever they got from Renesas, Infineon, Richtech, Intercell's now Renesas. So whatever they got from their VRM supplier is just whatever goes on the board. And it, like, sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's not so good. And it's just, ASRock ASRock on B550 was amazing when I measured it. Though it might also be affected by the measurement methodology for that wasn't as good as I wish it was, but I don't, like, that board measured so good that I don't think there could have been, like, I don't think the measurement methodology could have really affected it that much. Unless that board has, like, some insane amount of resistance in the power plane. But, yeah, so... Though for AM5, the ASRock boards I measured are about, like, they're, like, halfway... They're about the same as MSI. Oh, actually, MSI, I measured a motherboard where, like, one of the LLC settings is, like, completely broken. I have a video about that. Which, again, not a huge deal, because by default, the motherboard doesn't use that setting. But it is kind of a problem if somebody manually goes into the BIOS and manually sets it to that. And it's like, that setting just shouldn't be there, because it's very, very broken. So... And at the same time, I always, like, and you know, I realize that I've probably just been talking about power delivery for, like, 20 plus minutes. Most people don't care, and it doesn't affect them. So I do sometimes question why I even bother measuring this. Right? Like, it was a lot easier for me to make PCB breakdown videos when I just assumed that the VRM was good instead of actually trying to measure it. It's like, oh, well, it's an Infineon controller with 90 amp power stages, so it's gotta be good. Yeah, but it's an Infineon controller with 90 amp power stages on a Gigabyte motherboard. So, and at that point, it's like, so is it good? How much does memory topology make a difference? It's hard to say. I said I have 30 minutes. They're not closing until midnight. It's 11:25. But yeah, so with topology, it's really hard to say. Especially because sometimes like the topology like issues can be tuned out. But actually like, oh, you know what? There's actually a really easy example for this. So X570. What's kind of funny is Gigabyte got accused of downcosting this motherboard because of the topology difference. So, if you look at these two photos, what you'll notice in between the memory, like the CPU and the memory slots, is that this motherboard doesn't have any capacitors over there. And the immediate assumption is like, oh, Gigabyte is like cost optimizing the motherboard. They're making it cheaper. And that might technically be true that now they don't have to pay for two capacitors. But the memory topology on this board absolutely demolishes this one. Like, it's not even close. This memory topology struggles to get to DDR4 4600, and that's on BIOSes that are actually like tuned for it. This memory topology is capable of 4800 plus. Like, this is actually 4600. Yeah, like 4800 on this is trivial to do. If you have Micron memory sticks, this will do 5000. And that's not with an APU, that's with a CPU. With an APU, it'll do like 5400. So wait, I'm on the wrong board. So yeah, this memory topology without the capacitors is like hundreds of megabits per second better than this one. And actually, if you use the latest BIOSes, this one got worse because the later BIOSes are tuned for this topology instead of this one. I have the original version of this board. That was the first, yeah, like when I got this board when I visited Taiwan. So even though it's kind of terrible, I'm never gonna get rid of it. Because yeah, like that was like my souvenir from the trip. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I brought that over in the suitcase with me, from Taiwan. Or maybe it showed up by... No, I'm pretty sure that traveled with me in the suitcase. But yeah, so, like, the topology can make a huge difference. Like absolutely massive. Oh, another example is the ITX MSI B650 board. That thing's terrible. And I'm, like, entirely convinced it's because MSI, like, tried to cram too much functionality on it, and then they had to move the CPU socket. And because they moved, like, where everything ended up is, like, that board just clocks like garbage. So the issue with the memory topology is, like, even though the different motherboard manufacturers can have drastically different topologies, if they're designed well, they can end up being very similar in actual performance, right? So it's really hard to judge, like, is Asus Nitro Path for X870 better than Gigabyte's like whatever Gigabyte is doing with their daisy chain? Because you can't even see what they're doing, right? Like, it's all internal. Like for DDR5, basically all of the motherboards put the memory actual like data lines inside the PCB, so they're not on the top layer. You can't see anything. So you'd have to like X-ray the motherboard to see what they're doing, and even that still wouldn't really tell you how does this actually work in practice. So there's like a lot of ways. So you can have like drastically different memory topologies that lead to the same result. And then you can have a memory topology where it's like there's like a slight mistake in how it's designed and it's just completely unusable. Right? Z690 Apex, the original version of the Z690 Apex sucks. Absolutely, like, massively sucks. And then eventually Asus revised the memory topology on it or like, I'm not sure if it was a topology change or if it was like an impedance control thing, which I'd argue is still a topology thing. But they botched something with the initial version of that board, and it's terrible. Like, the inside memory slot struggles to do like DDR5 6400, and then they released a later revision where they fixed it, and it does like 7600, right? So, like, the memory topology matters a lot. It's just that a lot, like, you basically have to test it because you can't see it from the outside. Like, it's too complicated to just go like, oh, this is a... Like, one thing that's kind of consistent is, like, 1 DIMM per channel generally is better. But even then, like, there's ITX boards that are just horrendous because there's not enough space. So they end up doing silly things like putting power delivery, like voltage regulators above the memory traces because they couldn't fit them anywhere else. Which, in and of itself, might not be, like, if you put enough layers between the memory and, like, the memory topology and the voltage regulator, you might be okay. You might be able to, like, not have the fact that there's, like, a switching regulator above your memory traces affect the memory, but, yeah. So, like, it's really complicated, and you just kind of need to test a lot of stuff, and that's just, yeah, that just makes life difficult. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna tick off ITX M5. So, yeah, this thing sucks. This thing, like, brick wall at 7200. Also, that has the bugged out LLC at mode 1. So this thing's horrible. I really want to test this because this could be really good for memory overclocking. This is good. Yeah. I want to use this board more, the X870 ITX. I just, man, like, that price. Asus. Kind of wish, like, I wish I would, I wish I'd, like, I wanted to test this board for ages. Because, like, it's a lot cheaper, and it's probably this, like, I would not be surprised if this was the same memory topology as this. So they might clock memory the same, in which case, like, why wouldn't you just get the cheaper one? Unless you need some of the functionality that offers. Yeah, this is probably... Oh, and I wanted to test this thing forever. Yeah, I wanted to try this board for ages and ages. Like, basically, as soon as it showed up, I was like, oh, man, someday I'd like to test this. How is it so cheap? Oh, it isn't. Anyway, I should end the stream or I am going to starve. Not actually, but, like, I would like to not have to just, like, live off of whatever's in my fridge. For the next, like, 8 hours. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate all the support for, well, everything I do. Because, yeah. And goodbye.